Ladies and gentlemen, you know the game. Don't front. This is one of the more popular games of the last about 5 years, I'd say, honestly. It has produced a fairly large amount of interest, of players. It's generated a huge amount of revenue. It's sold like crazy. It's gotten a huge modding community going. And it was successful enough that the person who made it is not only set for life, but can now focus on making games because they want to, full time. And that's kind of awesome, in all honesty. There's this series, the story that goes behind this series, this game, excuse me, is weirdly wholesome if you actually sit down and think about it. We only know bits and pieces of the specifics of Concerned Ape's real-life situation, but the general consensus is that they were doing this for fun because they wanted to. Because they wanted a Harvest Moon game, but were disappointed by the Harvest Moon games. Now, that makes perfect sense to me. How many of you have played Harvest Moon? Not the franchise, the original. All the way back on the SNES back in the 90s. Now, I played the crap out of Harvest Moon because, well, actually, it's kind of a funny story, which I'll probably share if we ever stream, excuse me, when we stream SimCity. But the long and the short of it was, I was running into two interesting confluences in my life, in my real life at the time. On the one hand, I had my mother, who really didn't like video gaming. Mom has always been anti-video gaming, and she's mellowed out on that a little bit over the years, but back in the day, she really did not like me playing video games. Picture your typical concerned mother, oh my gosh, my son is worshipping Satan situation, and you've kind of got the gist of it. Now, obviously, none of that was true, and she did have one valid concern, which she did impart upon me, and I took to heart. Don't take anything to extremes, to put it in simplicity. You know, if there's nothing wrong with I'm playing video games, in other words, but if I'm doing video games and nothing else, well, now we have a problem. That's something I myself have imparted upon my niece, for example. But otherwise, there was a concerted effort for a little while there by me to prove to her that video games were not all magic and demons and violence. Now, ironically, there were 3 separate games which I used to successfully persuade her on the whole matter. One was SimCity on the SNES. One was, Harvest Moon, as we already mentioned. Can anybody guess the third one? I'm actually curious. Can anyone guess the third one? I'm going to give this away right now. It's not Aerobiz. Dr. Mario. No, Dr. Mario would predate this by a few years. Ironically, I had a lot of puzzle and other non-violent games on the NES, which she, of course, forced me to sell most of those games, a story I've told many times. Animal Crossing wouldn't exist for several years more. This game, well, that's a good question. If this game existed back in the 90s... But no, you're all terribly wrong. Nobody would have ever guessed it. Which is why I thought it was amusing. Just in curiosity, because the third and final game I used to successfully convince her was Earthbound. Some of you have heard part of that story. Going to the Toys R Us, my own money, $90, long trip, reading the book on the drive home. But believe it or not, Earthbound, which was just a game about running around the city and having jokes and lighthearted stuff, was something that helped convince her that there was something other than violence and demonic stuff. Now, if you know Earthbound, you know why that's funny. But Mom ever only looked at the surface level of video games anyways, and I wouldn't find out until I was an adult why that is. It is specifically because of the fact that Mom, who has I forget what it's called, but I call it an addictive personality, aka she gets addicted to stuff easily, has, for my entire life, for my entire childhood, deliberately stayed away from video games, even though she wanted to play video games with her son, because she was worried she would get too into them. It would have been nice if she'd told me that when I was a kid, but I didn't find that out until I was in my 20s. Anyways, I'll say thank you in a moment. So, I played Harvest Moon. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a little simple, but I didn't know better at the time. It was also the beginning of my burgeoning interest in the incredibly huge umbrella of gaming known as strategy. Nowadays, I tend to divide it up a little bit more because I have a little bit more experience and a little bit more exposure with that. But we've got the gargantuan strategy umbrella, and then it drifts over here into like military strategy or civilization strategy. But there's also the builder side of strategy as well, which tends to divide into what we usually call management sims. Like SimCity is of course the example, but you've got things like the Railroad Tycoon or the hospital games or whatever, right? And I was only just beginning to realize how much I loved strategy as a genre. So, oh my gosh, these are a thing. You know how that is, right? I mean, I'm sure most of you have at least some story in your life where you didn't realize how much you wanted X, Y, or Z until it was introduced to you. And then it's like, oh my god, this is what I've been wanting. I've told the story before about how Civilization 2 was just kind of a game changer for me when I finally sat down and played it for exactly that reason. But I'm getting a little bit off topic. The point is, being as into this kind of game as I am, and have been since I was a child, I mean, teenager, the fact of the matter is, looking at this, you might think, well, clearly you've been playing the Harvest Moons ever since, right? Kind of. Because here's the thing. I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But I kept playing the Harvest Moon series for some time, but less and less as it went on. Then some legal shenanigans happened, and the Harvest Moon series branched off into Harvest Moon and the Story of Seasons franchise, and they both kind of suck, in my opinion. And that's my opinion on every Harvest Moon style game since the original. They kind of suck. Most of them are too surface level, too disinteresting, and just don't really engage me. Another perfect example of this is the recent Harvestella. It's not really what I want out of this kind of a game. Now, I might be in the outlier here, and that's entirely feasible, and I'm willing to accept that. But when I want to sit down and play a management sim, because that's what this is, I want to actually manage it. I want to juggle things like time and energy and resources. I want to be able to actually have depth and complexity behind my gameplay. I know that sounds strange for a series that's so known for being as chill as this genre is, but that's engaging to me. That's the kind of thing that I really get into. So I just sort of walked away from the Harvest Moon series almost entirely. And just, I would poke at it periodically and then be like, yep, and then I'd move on. Fast forward to about 2012. Yes, that long ago. Obviously, this game came onto my radar, and I was like, oh, okay. That looks terrible. And then I moved on. About a year passed, and I looked into it again, and I said, oh, wow, that game is gonna suck if it ever comes out. Hang on, I've got a little bit of crow lying around here somewhere. But anybody who was, I don't apologize for that. All of the signs indicated that Stardew Valley was going to friggity suck. How many of you remember the build-up and lead-up to the release of Stardew Valley? How many of you remember the prototype betas? How many remember the massive bug crap? How many of you remember how much it just kept getting delayed, and delayed? How many of you remember the months, or in one case, a full year with no word whatsoever from the developer? Every indicator was that the project was fumbling and failing and falling apart. How many of you remember that this game was initially supposed to come out in 2013? And they had to get a separate little extra boost of fundraising in order to be able to keep the project going, in order to keep developing. How many of you remember when they would say things like, oh, I've been working on such and such, and yet actually they weren't? Now, this is what I mean. Everything about the behind the scenes was just, whew, yeah. Now, with the advantage of hindsight, all of this makes sense. Concerned Ape wasn't doing this as their full-time job for quite a while there. And, this was just the hobby thing in the middle of the night. And, well, speaking as someone who spent 4 years producing the Final Fantasy IX theater, I can sympathize and relate. Life happens and all that. Also, I should probably mention that while obviously, so this game shares an obvious similarity with Undertale in that the ridiculous majority of the game was produced by one person. Now, it's not actually 100%. Both Undertale and Stardew Valley had other people who helped with some assets or some testing or some financing or whatever. But the ridiculous, like 98% of the development was one person. I'm only saying that for the sake of completion and coherency, because if I said all the work was done by one person, you know there'd be one jackass in the comments who'd be like, well, technically. And then I'd have to punch them and just keep punching them in the face over and over, and that's just tiring. Like, my elbow hurts. I don't feel like doing that right now. So as all of this was being done by mostly one guy, that it's understandable why the project would slip, because life happens and most people have absolutely no idea how to budget time when it comes to projects. I don't mean that as a insult, by the way. The ridiculous majority of people do not understand how to say, this is my timeline, and most people don't know how to budget their said time. It's also worth noting, and this should have been a sign for me back in the day, but I didn't pick up on this, that Concerned Ape didn't want to just ship it. Now, hear me out for a second. Let's pretend we're looking at a timeline here, okay? Now, over here is rushed. We've rushed the game out too early because of one reason or the other. And the overwhelming majority of games we cover fit into this territory right here. However, what a lot of people tend to forget is there's also over here, which is taking too long on a project. I'm sure someone's going to mention Star Citizen in chat, but there's actually quite a few games, which we only covered a couple of, which fall into this category as well. Anybody who's worked on any project, creatively especially, knows there is such a thing as taking too long on a project. Sometimes it does need to ship. Sometimes you just need to ship it. There's a line of diminishing returns when it comes to how much more work you can do on a project. This is true if you're working on a budget graph or a software or a video game or a painting or a song or whatever. It's true across the board. Anybody who's ever worked on a novel before knows sometimes you just need to ship the novel. So, both of these suck. So I'm just mentioning this here because he obviously didn't want to rush the project. But he started to drift over here a little bit. So in the end, 3 years later, 2016, Stardew Valley was finally shipped. Now, what's really funny is Stardew Valley was shipped incomplete. Now, you might think, oh my god, but actually this worked out well because, again, sometimes you do need to ship it. He was losing audience, he was losing interest. The game needed to come out. Sometimes you need to just ship it. Now, fortunately, the timing of its release was kind of amazing because it was at a point in time in which, so if you track trends, management sims in general, especially farming sims, were down here. I already mentioned in my comments about the Story of Seasons and the Harvest Moon legal drama. Well, that had pushed a fairly large chunk of the player base and the fan base away from those type of games in general. But I don't mean like because we don't want them. I mean because we did want them. It was a hole. Nobody was filling that particular market. So Stardew Valley came out almost perfectly in this one little slot of when that kind of game should come out, and people jumped on it. I'm sure at least some of you remember the launch of this game, 8 years ago, excuse me. God, it's been 8 years. When this game exploded in popularity. Everybody was covering it. Everybody was talking about it. And word of mouth spread like wildfire. And it makes sense, because that is the pattern. If a really good niche game comes out, that niche audience talks about it to their friends, who are like, oh, that sounds interesting. And it just kind of spreads, as long as the core game is good enough in order to justify that spreading, which, like it or not, Stardew Valley's core gameplay was that good. Now, it certainly had its flaws. We'll talk about those as we go. Certainly the control mechanisms has some issue and the combat is terrible. But the point is the core gameplay, let's be honest with ourselves, is good. So it spread, and it spread, and it spread. Now, the reason this worked out is because the developer in question was now able to, just focus on the game and nothing else, because he's set for life. The sales on this game have made it so that Concerned Ape never has to go off and do, a 9 to 5 day job ever again. The other thing that's on top of that is he wanted to put out the best product he could. There was a very real and very honest passion there. This was a game that was being made because he wanted to make it. It happened to sell well, and so he could keep working on it. And he did for years. In fact, I believe it was a grand total of 2 years before the co-op update came out, because he was allowed to actually work on it as well as possible. In fact, I believe, if I check right now, hang on. Yeah, he had a day job while he was working on this. Yeah, the most recent patch for this game came out this January. It's a minor change, but I'm just pointing out that this game kept going for quite a while. In fact, the last major content patch was last December. So, I don't know how to check that, Venetia. You can check that for me. Go forth, my minion. So all of this worked out brilliantly. Although, let's be honest, both we and he got rather lucky with regards to how this all lined up. Because this could have gone bad several times. As a quick aside, I'm just going to say really quick that I am extraordinarily hyped for the Haunted Chocolatier. Because now all of that day job and all of the stressors are gone. He can just sit down and work on the game. However much he wants to and however he wants to. Hopefully, he will also still be pushed to release it when he needs to, because that is a thing that still needs to happen. But we'll see what happens with regards to Haunted Chocolatier. Anyways, 30,000. There you go. Thank you, Venetia. Yeah, exactly, Alex. So that's the build-up and lead-up into Stardew Valley. Forgive me for taking up your time. I mentioned depth. I want to talk about that very briefly, because there's two things this game does extraordinarily right. One of those things is depth, and the other of those things is availability. Now, the depth thing is obvious. Someone in chat mentioned, I forget who, please forgive me, I was trying to get the whole story out. But if you have a game like this, and there's just no depth to it, it's just surface-level sandbox, then what you have is something that's just going to get boring as soon as you've roamed the sandbox. I know this is all a metaphor, but you know what I mean by that. When you have a game that's shallow as a puddle, it's much easier for it to get boring, right? If you only eat Snickers every day, that's gonna get old. Doesn't matter how good the Snickers is, right? It's the very definition of Dragon Age 2 syndrome, is that it's enjoyable, but... So there needs to be some kind of depth. There needs to be an early game, there needs to be a middle game, there needs to be a late game, there needs to be progression, there needs to be... And there is depth to this game. There's actually a lot of depth into this game. I don't even know all the depth of this game, and I've played it all the way through at least once on my Switch. Speaking of which, I should probably mention that I don't really have a lot of experience playing this on the PC, so I'll be getting used to the controls a little bit too. Oh, also, just for historical context, there's a lot of mods for this game, like a lot of mods for this game. However, the game doesn't actually support mods, so no pluses there. Anyways, the second layer of things is the availability thing I just mentioned. A mistake several of these types of games tend to make is they say, okay, well, you've started the game, so you have access to this one thing you can plant and this one thing you can build, and that's it. Now, you might say, well, Stardew Valley's like that too. Not really. Stardew Valley has unlocked almost all of its features. Excuse me, let me walk that back a little bit. Unlocks most of its core features within the first week or two. So there is a little bit of throttling, but most stuff unlocks very quickly. Within, honestly, minutes, if not within an hour of gameplay, you have access to most of the features of the game. In my opinion, this is the right move. I know that's getting into pure opinion territory, but I do think allowing the player to just kind of decide how they want to play the game, while at the same time not completely shotgunning them with choices right at the bat, was overall a good decision. So I've mentioned 3 games have impressed me playing them in 4K. This is one of them. I just wanted you to see a little bit of what this game looks like in 4K. So I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit because I'm now full screen. So I can still see chat. Still can't see chat. Still can't. There's chat. So this is what this game is like at 4K. Allow me to express that when I first fired this game up at 4K, I was honestly astonished that it even had 4K support. But look at that visual range! Look at that! I love this! Okay, there it goes, there it goes. Anyways, so as I was saying, so if I'm just standing up here and I'm like, oh god, where's that stupid jock dude that I can't think of the name of? You can see my mouse, right? Yep, you can see my mouse. He's down here, see? He's right there. One of my only complaints about this game is how slow running is. This is run, by the way. There's actually a slower move speed than this. Oh, there's the mayor. There's the first kid. There's the second kid. I love playing like this. I highly recommend anybody with an interest in this game and the hardware to support it play like this, because this is awesome. No, I have not, Pika. I barely had time for breakfast this morning. Hi, Abigail. My one true love. How do I talk to people? Oh, there we go. Of course, we all know Penny's better. Yeah, thankfully or otherwise, I'm pretty familiar with this game, so I know most of the quicker routes. I'm going to go ahead and admit I don't... So, some people like to really min-max this game. Like, really min-max this game. I'm kind of medium min-maxer. I like to be efficient, and I like spreadsheets, but I don't go really into it. Oh, actually, while we're on it... Here, hang on. Let's go up here. I mean, Abigail does have a SNES. So, you gotta keep that in mind. Who's this weirdo? Ah, whatever. It's also really nice in the cave, because you can almost always see the entire cave floor. Now, it doesn't always help you, but, you know, it's cool. Anyways, so I don't even know what save this is, honestly. I just wanted a save up so I could show this off. Like, you can see the quarry over there. Actually, no, you can't. Hang on. You can see the ravine. There's the quarry. Yes, it will be mine. Oh, yes. I'm tempted to just stream in this form. Like, you won't be able to see me, but honestly, who cares? Whoop, whoop, whoop. But yeah, also, so I should mention one other thing. I mentioned efficiency. The best way to play this game in terms of several elements of design and efficiency and money and blah 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 is to figure out the best thing to plant, and then to plant it, and then just to have a gigantic field of whatever that is. I should probably also mention that, as with most things in real life, as with most management sims, it's kind of debatable which thing is the most profitable because there's different metrics. So some people will say, you know, just what's the best selling thing? So some people track how long it takes for something to bloom. But then other people track how much profit you can get from that per season. So, for example, let me use a made-up example, because I don't remember all the specifics off the top of my head, but I think it's raspberries? So let's say I plant some raspberries over here. Hang on, there we go. Plant some raspberries. And then we go over here, and we plant some potatoes. I'm just making up examples. Don't work with just work with it. Just work with it. So these raspberries will take longer to actually bloom than the potatoes do, but the potatoes and the potatoes sell the same well but bloom faster. Therefore, potatoes are better, right? Not necessarily, because raspberries can keep blooming over and over and over and do so at regular intervals. Now, this is when the really fun part of things comes in. So hang on, let me show you what I'm talking about here. I'm not even getting into the next layer of things, which is making wine and making mayonnaise and, you know, all sorts of other stuff. Yeah, I'm also not getting into grading. As I mentioned, there's a decent amount of depth to this game. It's one of its better hallmarks. But the easiest way to show off what I'm talking about is right here. So, let's say that... Can you see the mouse? Yeah, you can. Okay, let's say I plant everything on day 1. And let's say, for example, that everything comes up every, I don't know, 4 days. So, Thursday, then Monday, and then Friday, and then Tuesday, and then Saturday, and then Wednesday, and then Sunday. Perfect harvest season no wasted crops, right? But you can already tell based on how I'm saying this that if something doesn't plant in a pattern that will have optimal harvest pattern across the month, because all months are 28 days, then you've got problems, right? No, this tickles the crap out of my economic geek. Just Jesse Smash, trust me. Because so many people don't think about these layers of economic transactions in real life. Like, you're thinking about that like, oh man, I could do this one thing and it's got, let's use a random example, a 5-day planting thing, but it's got this huge return. So I'm like, yeah, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 waste. 3 days of absolute waste on top of that. Now, that doesn't also necessarily make it worse than the 4-day thing. You have to figure out, does the total sales from doing it optimally in a 4-day pattern, or does the sales of missing 3 days on a 5-day pattern, which one of those gets the net profit? And there's all sorts of other directions to think about on this too, because you also have to consider a factor I haven't even mentioned yet. Energy. This game has a brilliant mid-game design because, you can't even see it, but way down here in the corner is my energy bar. I have 270 energy to play with. Cool. But the larger, like, watch my cursor for a second. So assume this is the size of my farm right here. Like, this is it. Cool. That doesn't take me that long to water and harvest. But let's say that the farm gets bigger. As I'm making more money, I can plant more crops. And then bigger. And then bigger. At a certain point, once you've reached a level of size, it will actually reach a point where you cannot keep up with the watering requirements. You have to actually do other things in order to try and make up the difference, because manual labor will simply fall behind the curve. Now, there are things you can do about that. There's, of course, just sleeping in the bed if you're in a co-op game, like we'll be in a minute. There's... Oh, I can up the UI plenty. I have it minimum because I prefer it minimum. Just for you. There you go. Anyways. So what was I saying? Right. So you can set up sprinklers, obviously. A rainy day is fantastic and can be a whole thing that just is okay, I don't have to think about my crops day. There's better what are these things called? Watering cans. There's better watering cans, which give you more efficiency for how much you can water per energy, because that's the cost at that point. Also, all of this needs to take into account time as well. So, time, energy, efficiency, all of this is just going into the most basic complexity of this game. Watering your crops. And forgive me for sounding like I'm gushing, but it's because I love this. This is the whole complexity thing I was talking about. This is the depth that most Harvest Moon games do not have. That most of them do not get into. They don't have any of this layer of management. Most of them just have, all right, go water your crops. Water, 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 water. Okay, now talk to the people in town to figure out which one you're going to marry. Because you gotta marry someone, right? Anyways. And then, I'm not even talking about other things, like, especially early on, you need to take care of the actual farm. Some of this stuff will respawn per season. We've got this thing over here. We can set up a basement later. We've got the casks and the mayonnaise makers. And there's layers. There's wonderful, lovely layers. But I should probably actually start reviewing the game at some point. So, let's go ahead and get back to not being gargantuan. As much as I absolutely love playing this way, I understand that people would probably not enjoy that overly much. So, yeah, there's... how do I explain this? I hesitate to use this phrase because everyone's going to mistake this. But this is Linus, excuse me. A stranger, hello. Don't mind me, I live out here alone. Stab! Oh, sorry. This is very Dark Souls. Hear me out. It's better than Dark Souls. But it is leaning in that general direction. There are bits and pieces of lore, honestly, everywhere. With regards to the doodads, which is visual storytelling. With regards to some of the things that people say. Some of it's random and only shows up on, some of it only shows up in certain days. Some of it's only during certain events. Um, there's all kinds of little tidbits of lore, honestly, everywhere. And some of it is left up to interpretation because some of it is fully in character. So you're hearing people talk, you're not learning the truth of things, right? Um, so that's its own thing, and that allows you to try to look into the greater world, for lack of a better word, of how this setting works and what's going on in it. We know there's a war actively going on right now. That's one of the more overt things. And we know that there's some scary stuff going on with the news. Um, we know that the town itself is kind of on its way out because it's just kind of economically dying. And Jojamart has been being Walmart about it, to be as blunt about that as I can. Whether you like Walmart or not, that's up to you. I'm not here to lay judgment. But Walmart has a very regular and repeated pattern, which is why it's been successful for many years. They move into a new area, they offer lots of jobs, which pay reasonably well, and they charge very little and basically operate at a loss for a few years to establish a nice big footprint. And then they kind of shuffle things a little bit further up until they're back at actually making money, and now Walmart has its tentacles in. It's a very common thing. I don't know if that's true in other countries, but it sure as hell is in the country I live in. And that's what JojaMart has been doing. They have been trying very hard to kill the town by virtue of everything I just mentioned, which is one of the reasons they can go straight to hell, because they just want this to be like another city. However, the thing is, and this is mentioned a few times, the city isn't doing great, no, in general. The city, I think calling this a city is a joke. The town isn't doing great in general, and it is going to need some kind of injection of new blood into it. And that's probably the closest thing to a plot we have in this game. The idea here is that you needed this because your life sucked, and they needed you because they needed the injection of new blood. So I sure hope you don't go the JojaMart route, right? I suppose it's a good time, Eddie, to talk about that, actually. So what I mean by the JojaMart, I'm going to let the game sit here for a second because this is one of the only times I can actually pause the game. So the JojaMart thing is there. You have a choice, and it is a very binary choice. It's one of the only binary choices in the entire game. Not in co-op, Dakota. So the two that you can try to restore the community center, which it takes a large amount of time and effort and work. It requires you to do basically every type of activity in the game. It requires paying attention and having a lot of like it's essentially an extended quest log, right? Or you can go with JojaMart and just drop money on their faces, which is extraordinarily easy to do, and is the kind of thing that anybody could do almost effortlessly, probably within like 3 months or 3 seasons, rather. Now, that distinction is made very much on purpose. The JojaMart is supposed to be the easy route. It's the evil choice. I can't believe I'm saying this, but credit to this game for understanding that evil choices in gaming should probably be easier, because that's usually how evil tends to work when it comes to those kind of decision makings. Do I put forth the extra time and effort and work and care into doing the right thing, or do I just shoot the guy because he's in my way, right? Now, let's be clear. Based on the greater lore of this setting, I am firm in my opinion that the JoJo route is the evil route. But as I've said many, many times, there's nothing wrong with offering an evil option in your storyline. And here we are. It is worth noting that even though it is evil, it does allow the village to continue to exist, because of course Jojo Mart starts, doing the Walmart thing I just mentioned. It's just, well, it's the Walmart thing. But as the closest thing to a choice in the game, I just wanted to mention I don't judge you if you go the Jojo route thing. I mean, I will totally quietly, silently just give you furtive looks like, good lord. But yeah, the biggest problem here, and the reason this isn't getting its own positive, despite actually being a proper dark side choice, is because nothing really comes of it. And that is one of the downsides of the game. So there's a huge veneer of choice. Almost all of your choices don't really matter past the scene where you make the choice. Ignore that spaceship going across the screen right now. it's it's all just kind of for the fluff. Now that's fine. There's nothing really wrong with that, but if you're looking for tangible consequences of decisions, this is not the game for that. And so as a direct consequence, I can't actually give a gameplay positive for a choice that doesn't really change anything, because at that point it's entirely on the narrative side of things. However, and you already see where I'm going with this, I would like to posit a... I suppose... I'm trying to think of what direction this would be in, because there is a definite fluff thing. I guess this would be atmosphere, about pretty much every choice you can make in this game, small and large. And whether or not you... It just changes the flavor of the moment, right? And I do think that's a good thing. I just don't think it's a great thing, so I think that should at least get one positive on the story axis, specifically for changing the aforementioned flavor. One of my favorite awkward zombies about Stardew Valley is the kid picks up the window, like this, and just moves it over there. And Robin is just going... That's an interesting question, Nitro. So, I'm guessing you missed my massive speech earlier about the extensive economic depth and complexity of the game. Which, honestly, I only did a surface reading on, but still, there's actually a huge amount of complexity to the economics of this game. However, what you're asking about is adding another layer to that. Would that make it better or worse? So let me start by saying that adding something as an option is never really going to make something worse, because it's an option. That's how that works. Let's do that. Hang on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there, right there. Yep, no, I'm right. I don't know if anything in the game tells you the Scarecrow range. Right there, 8 tiles. It actually does say right there. Holy crap. Info in game. Having said all that, so let's assume it's optional. Let's assume it's a toggle that you can disable or enable at will. Would I consider that to be an improvement or disprovement of the game? Would it be a positive or negative? I mean, obviously it's an option, but let's ignore that. Would it improve my enjoyment of the game? I think it would lower my enjoyment of the game personally, and I want to explain why a little bit. First of all, I've played a lot of games that have variable pricing and supply and demand mechanics, but those only work if there are external factors being pushed on the system that have nothing to do with the player. Because if you put all of the supply and demand on the player is going to very, very quickly not either build themselves into a corner pricing-wise or be forced to cycle through their systems in order to take control of the supply and demand side of things. In other words, at that point, the supply and demand itself is going to be an aspect of the gameplay that you are going to have to manage. Now that can work, and there are games where that's worked in, but there does need, in my opinion, those kind of games do need something external pushing and pulling that system. Because not only is it kind of tedious to have to manage the whole system yourself, but, more importantly, it becomes extraordinarily easy to exploit. Just like in real life, honestly. There are, in fact, real-life systems in place to try and prevent that sort of thing, which have a variable amount of success. Let's not get into that. The point is that that's a very basic level of thing, right? Having said that, if there were external pushers and pullers, and signs you could pay attention to, or maybe events that happened over time which would increase or decrease certain things, I think that could add something to it. I think for me personally, if I had one feature to tack on to Stardew Valley, it would be the events system from Stellaris. I know that's a weird way to go with that, but the more I've played management games in general, whether they are civilization level or farm level, I think that the event system is one of the best mechanisms that's been tacked on to those types of games, and more games need to do it. Event systems are awesome. Endless Space 2 does that, yeah. We've seen a little bit of it in EU4, not that much. Reciteer kind of did something with that. I agree with that. That's fantastic. And so I absolutely think that that is the system I would tack on top of it to add the aforementioned complexity that you felt the game was missing. So what is an event system? Well, the easiest way to explain this would be by example, but I don't want to lose too much more time, so hang on a second. Okay. While I'm roaming around, let's describe what an event system is. So it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. There are a lot of events that can happen, that can trigger. There's a lot of ways those can trigger. Some can trigger within a range. Some can trigger because something happened. Some can trigger just based on pure random chance, right? If you... I'm trying to think of a specific example. Let's use Stellaris, because I know that event system the best. Let's say that you find... Hey, Abigail, who's playing music. Let's say you find a planet, and this planet happens to be a planet that has pre-warp civilization, and you can interact with them. As a consequence of that, you can actually an event can trigger, not necessarily, but can trigger now, where they develop nuclear weapons and can actually wipe each other out. And that can change the status of that planet and the tiles and the resources of it, and of course wipe out the people. Excuse me, there's also timeline-related events. That's also an important thing. In some cases, an event can fire completely randomly. Right now, you're roaming around, and just all of a sudden, a specific Khan, one of the marauding clans, decides to crop up and say, "Hi, I'm a marauding clan, and I'm here to punch you in the face," and then they start punching you in the face. Sometimes it's really basic stuff, like maybe another random event is maybe a certain political movement has started getting going within your empire, right? Sometimes, so I mentioned the timeline thing. So the timeline stuff is usually more in the historical games. But imagine if on day 15 of Spring 2, for example, an event is planned to trigger. The Pope has called for the Crusades, to use the most obvious example of that. And so now all sorts of events... And that's the whole point of the events system, is it's something that happens that changes the dynamic of the game that you can ignore completely, maybe, but it's another option of doing stuff. Maybe there's a specific new faction that's fired up. Maybe there's a new mechanic that's been introduced. Maybe certain races can interact with each other in a different way. It also is a good way to add a narrative to things. That's another good way to phrase that. It's something that, in my opinion, was based off of the Alpha Centauri system. Because Alpha Centauri, which is a much older 4X game from the 90s, has what I would call the bare bones of an events system. It's not a full event system, because it doesn't function the same way. But there are things that can be triggered by other things, mostly related to the worms and the planet itself. And I feel like that, and the way that kind of developed the narrative of that series, is part of where the event system came from. I could be completely wrong about this. It's just my personal take on things. And yeah, it's easier to do events within historical context. The marriage between Aragon and Spain in EU4, for example, is based on real historical events. Or the Pope dividing the Americas, these are based on real historical events that happened, which can then be set to triggers, aka you've done this, therefore now this, or just timelines like the aforementioned Crusades. So events add gameplay, and events add story, and they're kind of awesome. I really have very little but good things to say about events. I did not find a single daffodil. That's ridiculous. There's only two ways to look at this game, as far as I'm concerned. Either it's an aspect of gameplay that should be taken as a non-story thing, or there are people we don't see in this game who are kind of terrible people. It really is one of the two. Because, we get mugged under certain circumstances, and people throw rocks at him, and I forget the other examples right now, but there are other examples of people who are not great. who are kind of scummy people. And yet, of all the people we see in town, all 28 or whatever it is, none of them are really that type of person. I should probably talk about the scarecrows. I already kind of mentioned this. They hit a nice big circle, about an 8-tile circle, like this, around them. They prevent the crows from coming by and taking your stuff. This is a fairly common mechanic in games like this. It's easy to bypass. It's there as kind of a bit of a resource tax. But let's talk about this, because the real reason for this kind of mechanic to exist is to encourage the player to plan. I know this sounds strange, but that it costs so little to get scarecrows, and you get access to scarecrows so easily. It's such a minor thing. The only main reason for scarecrows to exist, for the crow thing to exist, is specifically to encourage you to try and map out an actual field, rather than just plopping stuff wherever and just going with it. Whether that works or not, that's up to you. I just thought I'd mention the meaning behind this kind of thing. Do you ever take a day off? It was me. I'm sorry. I find a lot of hot, fresh food in these cans. Stuff that'll go to waste if I don't take it. Do you think there's something wrong with what I'm doing? So, we want to raise our rep with him. Thanks, Lore. I knew you were an open-minded person. I feel good about what I'm doing. I'm not harming anyone. You can go home. I promise I won't rummage in George's can anymore. You can tell him you scared off the raccoons for good. Wait. I know what you were doing, Linus. If you need food, just ask. I don't want anyone in Pelican Town to go hungry. Here, I got a basket of zucchini fritters just for you. Make sure you dip them in my spicy marinara. Go on, take it. I do actually like Gus. And I'm with you, Huthor. Hostile architecture can go directly to hell. Not pass and go, and not collecting $200. Of all of the many solutions to homeless people, hostile architecture is probably the worst thing we could possibly have thought of. Jesus Christ. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Someone asked a valid question. Is there anything wrong with what he's doing? Yes, absolutely. And there's several reasons why. The biggest, the most important, the most relevant is what he's doing is actually legitimately dangerous. Food that is in a trash can is not safe. And I don't mean just in a regular way. Like, as Takoida points out, there are lethal, potentially lethal consequences for doing that. I'm completely ignoring things like bugs or, animals, which are also a recurrent risk to dumpster diving. It's not cool. Now, what happened with Gus, with him saying, here's some leftover food, have it, that's fine. In fact, that's the kind of thing that I'm honestly kind of in favor of, because, like it or not, most places that serve food, both grocery and restaurants, have leftover food. You can't have 100% efficiency in your food. That's not possible. So, having leftover food and willingly donating it is fine, at least on paper. Now, we've actually talked about this topic before, because there are layers of complexity that go into that. There needs to be essentially an in-between. There needs to be, so here's the grocery store. and here's the food hospice or the place that actually gets the food to the people who need it. There needs to be an in-between layer there to make sure that this is safe before it gets to this. That's the consequence. That's the difficulty. There needs to be this layer of responsibility, just to put it as bluntly as I can, because not all food that would be wasted is safe to then just give to people. Maybe it's out of date. Maybe there's been a food scare. Um, maybe there's something in it, or it's going bad, or whatever. Right? There's a lot of possible health, tangible, real risks for just saying, yeah, here, have the extra food. And yeah, the problem is this middle layer is going to involve people who are going to have jobs who need to be motivated to do that jobs. This is going to be an expense. And that's why this kind of thing generally doesn't happen. um, I used to work at an Arby's loaner. I know exactly how much perfectly good food gets thrown out and gone to waste. Again, the problem is the amount of food that goes out the door, the waste food at places. And grocery stores are worse about this, and I have worked at one of those too. But the amount of food that goes to waste includes a fairly large amount of food products. Some of it's stuff that's not selling, some of it's stuff that's just been pulled off the shelves, some of it's stuff that's gone bad, some of the stuff that's going bad. Some of it's stuff that something got into, right? Like maybe it was infested, or maybe it's got mold growing on it, or whatever. There's a pretty wide category here of food waste. That's why we need that middle layer. That needs to exist to filter and say, okay, hang on. This can go to the food kitchen. This can go to the food kitchen. This can go to the food bank. And I do think, to be clear, I do think this is a thing that should happen. I do think this is a thing that should exist. I am pretty anti-food waste, and I do think adding a little bit of extra overhead in order to try and reduce that food waste and get food to people is something that is an acceptable expense, my opinion. I'm also, in general, pissed off because when I used to work at Arby's, we had a mandated amount of food waste. I talked about this before. In order to put it against it was a whole accounting thing. I don't want to get into it, but it was an accounting thing, and you had to have X amount of food in the bucket. It was a literal goddamn bucket every day to go against your food budget for that store. Yeah, as Pillars of Snow said, or it's just day old bread. It could just be food that's not super fresh, but it's still edible. It's still fine. It still provides nutrition, or can be enjoyed. And then there's also plenty of food which doesn't go badly particularly quickly at all. You remember I mentioned in the category earlier, one of the things I mentioned was stuff that got deshelved. Because this happens at grocery stores around where I used to live and where I used to work, where it's like, well, this hasn't sold for a while. It's got another 5 months on its shelf life, but we don't have the storage for it, and we need to shuffle it out in order to make room for other things. So they'll just throw it out the window, more or less literally. And it's usually canned goods, right? Or pickled stuff, or things that, like I said, don't really go bad all that fast. And all that's just being thrown in the dumpster. That's the kind of stuff that would be perfectly valid to dump into this middle category and say, yeah, this is cool, and then taken off to a food kitchen. Jesus Christ, like, forgive me for getting upset about this, but anyways, sorry. We're going a little off topic. The core point here was, is what Linus was doing wrong? And the answer is yes. I only talked about safety and health. There are other concerns here. Obviously, what he's doing can have precedence. It can cause actual God, I can't think of the words. I'm losing all the words here. What he can do can spread disease, not just for himself. Like maybe there's something that's just kind of uh, roaming through the food because of time or because of bacteria or whatever. Parasites is a very real problem. He may even be immune to something, but he might be spreading it because of the fact that he's just going between trash cans, acting as a vector. Um, It's something that some people find gross. It's something that might actually cause a detriment to George. Let's use George as a specific example. Maybe George doesn't want someone siphoning around in his trash. Now, he may or may not have a right to that. That's certainly debatable, but at the same time, that is his trash and all that. So there's several layers of what Linus doing being wrong. Now, in this exact case, Gus saying, here, have some food, I know that's good to Linus, that's a good thing. We don't need that extra layer in the middle there because it's one person giving to one person. The layer of the in-between is more an organizational layer, which doesn't apply in Stardew Valley. I'm talking about, for cities, right? Or counties. But now, we've leveled up our mining. Sorry for going way off topic there. It's just that is a topic, and we didn't make much money there. Oh yeah, noise pollution is another problem that could be caused by that. Maybe I'm a little bit biased on that front, because I have a hellacious time sleeping and always have. But noise pollution is a very real problem. But yeah, the health concern is the real thing there. There's so many reasons Linus shouldn't be dumpster diving. I'm not sure what to make of that Nitro. Yeah, that lore plays video games, I think. But you know what he really does? He discusses trash and food waste. And I'm going to put that on the highlight reel. That is a thing. Yeah, I don't want to dive into that particular thing because I know people disagree on it. But, my personal take on it is I have known people in real life, personally, in person, who are the kind of person who will go buy a hot dog at the hot dog stand and then throw it in the trash because they can, or because they want to prove that they can, or because it's their money and their right to waste it and all over. I've known people like that. Those people suck. Hello, Laura. You see this cat here? What should we call the cat? Found it sitting outside the entrance to your farm. I think it's a stray. Poor little thing. Major Tom. Yeah, you know what? Sold. I think it likes this place. Don't you think this farm could use a good cat? Yes, I will adopt the cat. Major Tom. In honor. Another sunny day. Pierre is now selling fertilizers. That's nice. Please stop clogging my mail with trash, Pierre. Alright, so let's go ahead. Get our watering done. So we started talking about it earlier today, but let's really go into this. Combat in this game sucks. It's one of the only things that's not good, but with an asterisk, or problematic, but can be worked around. Combat is just a universal negative in this game. It is a damn shame, because a surprisingly large amount of stuff is kind of locked behind combat. What I mean by that is several aspects of this game you could completely avoid or ignore if you want to. Combat is not on that list. Yeah, progression pretty much requires the mine. There's just too much down here, which is too useful for too many things. So let's go down the list, shall we? I've already talked about the first and most obvious problem. Animation locking. While I am swinging this sword, and for the full duration of swinging this sword, I am locked in place. I can't move, I can't turn. I can do nothing. And, if you're paying attention to that right now, I can't believe I did that perfectly. I didn't even mean to. Do you notice how he went right through my swinging, despite swinging as fast as it was possible to swing? That's because of something we've talked about a few times in this show. There's wind-up, there's collision, or whatever it's called. I don't know any of the terminology, but there's wind-up, there's collision, and then there's follow-through. The wind-up is how long between you pressing the button and the attack happening. The in-between part is when the attack can actually collide with the enemy, and the follow-through is how long after that period of time before you can start doing a new action. I am using a keyboard. Eee. So, having said all that, I don't know exactly where the screw-up is with regards to that, but either 1, 2, or all 3 of that process are wrong. And enemies can just kind of ignore attacks because they're not currently in a period where they can be attacked, or you can't actually readjust your attack because you're still stuck trying to do the previous attack. It's a colossal pain. It's pretty much the worst possible way to do combat in a game like this. Not that he would ever look at my individual stream of this game, but if you happen to be watching this, Concerned Ape, no judgment, but your combat is terrible. Here's hoping Chocolatier does it better, since that is literally one of his stated goals. So, we've got animation locking, and we've got frame timing, both of which are wrong. Then we've got the third problem now. Third problem is reach. Now, that may not sound like a big issue, but think of it in tiles terms. You actually can only hit one tile in front of you. I'm demonstrating it right now. Now, if you'll notice, I'm actually inching forward. Do you see that? That's another thing. Each swing actually moves you forward 1 pixel. But that's unrelated. Anyways, so you can hit one tile in front of you. That is a much smaller window and much shorter range than it sounds. Especially given how quickly and easily most of the enemies can move. Even those damn slimes who can actually, lunge at quite a distance. Especially when you get into real enemies. Obviously, we're nowhere near real enemies now. But trust me, there are real enemies later, and they kinda suck. So all of that sucks. So let's see. We've got range, we've got the animation locking, and we've got the frame timing. So then we've got the fact that there's no way to get better weapons that doesn't involve doing the combat. This is a minor complaint on top of everything else, but I do still think it's a complaint. Most things in this game you can progress in some way or another by doing something else. Not this. The only way to get better weapons is to do the combat and go down the mine and progress through the situation to get the better weapons, which are either down in the mine, or are the rare drops off of the enemies, or spend way too much money at the local place in order to buy a weapon that is half as good as the stuff you'll find just going through the mine. So your progression is completely locked into doing this crap, which means you're kind of forced to use a weapon that doesn't do great damage the whole time. Relevance? The weapon I've been doing right now is doing hardly any damage to literally the first enemy in the entire game, the basic slime. I don't have to explain this because you've been watching it, but in the off chance you missed it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 strikes to kill one extremely basic enemy. Now, there's a bit of variance. I believe this thing does 1 to 4 damage? Nope, 2 to 5. My bad. 2 to 5. Still, that's not good. And the final and biggest sin of combat, because all of the things I just mentioned are things that plenty of other games do. But the biggest sin to combat, by far, is that it is the only mechanic in this entire game that is basic. What you have seen now is combat in this game. Unlike farming, unlike developing, or unlike, not developing, sorry, producing, unlike, just the overwhelming majority of stuff in this game, combat never changes. It is the same core mechanic, top to bottom, front to back. There's no additional abilities, there's no new nuance, or layers, or skill, or abilities, or equipment, or anything. Swing, 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 swing. That's it. Favorite types of streams. when I get to play a new game, when I get to introduce a game I like to the audience, a chill stream. Of those three, which do I find more personally fulfilling? Of those three, I would probably say the game I know very well, which I know isn't quite what you said, but a game that I know inside and out that I can talk about with confidence and comfort, that I can just discuss off the top of my head, is the kind of game that I tend to prefer to stream. Or, if I was to phrase this in different terminology, I like streaming games that I like and know very well. This is ironic because I've been told by several people, viewers, that they prefer those streams too. But that's not an uncommon comment. I would also say a game that I've never played before, but that I really end up digging, would also... Which I guess is just me saying a game I really like again. But I stand by it. Both of those are really cool streams to do. Then there's the fact that it's very hard to go completely dry on resources. In fact, I'm not even sure it's actually possible. I think you'd have to really go out of your way to completely self-sabotage yourself in order to run dry on resources. This isn't Warcraft 2. To carry the parallel a little bit further. You would have to spend money on things, which you would then either throw away literally, or grow and then throw away. And even then, parts of the terrain are constantly regrowing or rebuilding in order to provide additional resources for foraging, or for lumber, or for whatever. There's always some kind of source of resources which you always have a way to deal with because your stamina, even if you stay up till midnight, or excuse me, 2 a.m. every single day, your stamina will recover, and in the process you will have a resource to spend. The game is designed to keep the wheel spinning. Alright, Haley, let's do it. Will you dance with me? Ew, no. Yep, that's my life right there. She was the closest one we got, and yeah. The reason I consider that the end of the intro is it's in many ways designed to be a fulfillment of the last few of the mechanics of the game. By the time you reach the 24th, you have gone through almost 4 full weeks of activity, and you're supposed to have accomplished at least a little bit of every prong of the various things you can do throughout the course of the game. That means... I'm just gonna go lay down. I'm gonna pass out if I don't lay down. Run! 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 And that's kind of the, like, it's structured weirdly, but it's kind of the first quest. Have you successfully managed to make friends with one of the various people you can make friends with, sufficient to join in the first activity? It's a little thing, it's not a major thing, but it is your first goalpost. Now, the game doesn't really tell you that, and the overwhelming majority of people who play this game normally, kind of like I've been doing, won't actually be ready for that dance. And that's sort of the point. This is kind of your goal marker, and in general, the idea is either you've made it successfully, congratulations, or, more likely, you didn't make it because you didn't even realize that that was the race you were in. Hence, the idea is it's supposed to be the wake-up call of, this is how you're supposed to be playing the game. You're supposed to raise your friendship values with people. And that's the official no-really marker of that. Because it's a lot harder to avoid the events, that is to say the calendar holidays, than it is to avoid the individual cutscene events. So almost every character has individual cutscene events. We've actually already seen one of them. We've seen Linus's, when he goes and digs in George's trash can. We actually had a whole talk about that. Each of those is the reward, for lack of a better way to do it, for actually doing the friendship thing. That's the meat content. That's the story. We're doing the quest to perceive. Make sense? And that's the whole point of that festival is, hey, did you make it? If you did, you could be doing this. And that's kind of the structure there. So having now finished the intro, ironically, I feel like the intro is very strong on both axes, but only enough for a single positive, I think. Because part of the problem with the intro is it's so designed around the idea of you doing effectively whatever you want to in whatever order you want to. And as such, the relative lack of structure hurts it. That being said, there is a lot of meat on that bone. There's a lot you can do in those first 24 days. Hell, we've actually done a decent amount, and we've been kind of idle moding on purpose. Now rainbows are attacking us. I mean, I'd rather not, Crazy Norse, if that's okay with you. It's okay, I got some rusty nails I can eat instead. That reminded me of something. Even the tiniest, blandest, simplest light holds a wonderful secret. Are you calling me tiny bland? Yeah, I know what I hear. It's a sign. No, I'm just visiting. Ah! Alright, Emily. We're not friends anymore. Lore. There's something special about Lore. It's like he's an alien robot. Our destinies will intersect.
Positives and negatives to gameplay. I like not fishing.
Brilliant! There's the review. We're done. I don't think there really is much of a good example of a warp effect, which is sort of the problem, Eternus. Because you've warped it. That's... You know what? I'll take that. We're trying to make progress right now, so progress we shall make. I mean, there is such a thing as negative enforcement of a character, but there are lots of ways to do that that don't involve warping. A perfect example of that is Sauron in the Lord of the Rings movies. He is perfectly established by not having presence on screen, and it doesn't involve warping someone to do it. Warping is, honestly, the cheap version of negative enforcement. Warp effect is when you establish another character as dangerous or powerful or whatever by having your supposedly powerful character get bodied by them. It's pretty much always said with a negative connotation because it's almost always done badly, just like in the very thing where it's established, Star Trek The Next Generation. You know, you got Worf, who's supposed to be this incredible badass. Strong, skilled, practices every day martial arts and, you know, shooting and working with his bat'leth. And every time they wanted to establish a threat of the week, they would have that threat of the week. Not every time, but many times they would have the threat of the week just kind of body Worf. There you go, threat established. It's cheap. And that's kind of the problem. Finally. Like, sorry, I'll get to that donation in just a second. I don't want to lose time down here. But just like, for example, it's the same exact problem with the red shirt concept. A red shirt is a problem. Not because killing someone is a problem, but because it means nothing. It's a cheap and effective way to try and get the audience to feel like, oh my gosh, the stakes are serious. The threat is a real threat. So you kill off some rando you've never heard of before, who may, if they were lucky, got one line of dialogue. And then, okay, threat established. Now we can move on with the actual episode, now that the audience knows there's a real threat here. It's cheap. And therein lies the problem. Now, you could argue whether or not any given individual case is an example of cheap storytelling or not. That's down to opinion. And thus, Eternus' comment is that in DMC5, Urizen was not cheap. I disagree. In my mind, they really took some of the biggest badasses in the setting, had them be completely warped, mostly off camera, even, just to try and establish that this guy is really the great and ultimate demon king of super ultimate amazingness. And then never really, like, I don't know, it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me at all. So, this is ridiculous. This is actually insane. Where the hell is the way down? Oh my god. Hi, Hazardous. Ironically, yes, Skin of Evil is a good example of a red shirt. Even though it was Tashiar. The only difference was the character was a named character. In every other specific way, Tashiar was being red-shirted in that scene. Going to make it to 440, dang it. Well, that's true, Huthor. My point overall is that the necessary trait, aka this is a threat, is something that's tangibly, palpably felt throughout the Lord of the Rings films because of negative reinforcement. I suppose I should explain that, sorry. So, again, for the highlight reels, it's already hit the thing here. Negative reinforcement. It's actually not negative reinforcement. That's the truncated terminology. The full term is negative space reinforcement. You establish something by establishing the things around the something. Sauron is this big, doomy thing, not because of Sauron himself, who's barely on camera and has no real presence, but because of everything and everyone around Sauron. We feel the threat that he posits because of how the setting is built. One of the things I hear people make fun of is that Black Adam himself, the character, constantly says, I'm not a hero. But he constantly does heroic things. But then he says, I'm not a hero. Saving a bus full of orphans. I'm not a hero. But you're... No! Not a hero. Okay. Sir, this is a Wendy's. I'm not a hero! Number 3, please. Extra sauce. God, no, Yura. Oh, that would be awful. No. Like, no. First of all, I want you to imagine fighting a war like this. Second of all, that would be extremely wrong for a game like this. Just, no. Yeah, the conscription. It's time to face your greatest foe. And it's like super grimdark, you know? It's horrifically evil, you know? You're actually fighting terrorists. And then it's revealed you are a terrorist. It's just, it's all awful. And you're just like, yes, this is... And then it cuts back here. And you come back and then you just kind of start going back to farming as if nothing changed. But every night, your status effect, which is called PTSD, just gets worse and worse. What was I doing? Right, okay. Dear Concerned Ape, please do not make that game. Nobody wants that game. No, nobody. Nobody. Look, I'm not officially taking over the world. I get the boring job of actually making the world work. I told you, the world is run by people you've never heard of. I don't even have a real accent.
Yes, you do.
Have no accent. Don't listen to
accent.
it. There's no... No! God! Dashke!
God, Dashke?
Shut up! See, of the two of us, I'm the boring one, so... That's why she curses and I don't.
I'm colorful.
It's like I said, I'm the boring one. Black and white.
Haley likes cookies, even if
Yeah.
they're trash cookies.
You just gave Haley cookies you found in a trash can.
Yep, and I'm gonna give Grandma an ice cream cone I found in a trash can. And she said it looks wonderful.
Okay. How do you feel the inventory sorting is in this game, sis? Like the management layer of things.
It's stupid.
Why do you say that?
Because it's stupid.
This is a...
There's a sort button, which is, it sorts stuff, sure, but does it sort stuff in a way that makes sense? Nope.
You and Pax both. I should just hire you both as my reviewers. So what do you think of this game? It's stupid.
My own organization system, Crazy Norse. And he doesn't use it. So I refuse to use his.
Hey, I am using yours.
No, you're not!
And so...
No.
Okay, look. Hang on, let me get back to base. So first of all, we have the gold chest. That's for gold stuff. Very simple.
It's not color coordinated.
It's as gold as I can make that chest. Then we've got the purple chest. That's the bank. Right now, that's super rare stuff, which right now it only has one thing in it. Yellow is foraging. Green is stuff we've grown. Standard brown is like the tree stuff, basically. Blue is anything fishing related. Dark gray is the cave stuff. Red is the monster stuff. Over here, we have light blue. This is energy. And that's everything. So what's the issue?
My system.
But
In my defense, he got mad at me when I followed the arrow.
That's true. I did. I'm gonna head over.
Started yet?
I'm gonna head to the beach, because it's gotta start soon, and I'm out of energy. So I'm gonna explain what the arrow is for those of you unfamiliar. Back in World of Warcraft, there was an add-on, which was called, I don't know. I don't know what it's called.
I think it was literally called the arrow.
It might have been. It would use a guided tour of, you should talk to this person at this time, turn in this thing, in order to basically remove all of the thought process of questing. And there was a...
Lorebro, it wasn't even that, like, it was not a walkthrough arrow. It looked at the quests that you had in your quest log, and it said, this is the closest turn-in or whatever to you. Go do this.
So I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a quest add-on that came out after my sister stopped playing, I think, because there's a much more advanced version of this that came out later.
And then it gave you an arrow, and you went that way. Well, it also looked at quests that you had already turned in, or that you had already completed but hadn't yet turned in. So, like, say you've got 4 quests to go turn in at this town over here. Seafoam pudding. Buy that. But you've only got 1 of them done, but the quest is closer to you than the other 3 quests that you have to do for that town. It would send you to the town to turn in the quest because you were closest to it, and then send you to the next nearest quest objective. And there was no way to sort so that you would complete all of the quests that you had to complete first. It was just whatever quest you had in your inventory that was next closest to you. So it really was inefficient.
It was extraordinarily inefficient.
But he didn't like me just running around anyway, so... And I would be like, but the arrow! He'd be like, no! Where are you going? I'd be like, the arrow.
Humph. I could have done it myself, and I can certainly move on my own. How feeble do you think I am?
Cheating. Minizan just asked me where I get prismatic shards from.
Laura, you were watching us? I was. You did a kind thing, Penny. Thank you. I just wish George wasn't so upset. I was only trying to help. I love watching you in my cutscene, dumpster diving. No, I'm sorry, miss. I shouldn't have gone so angry.
Get any good loot out of it today, but I do get good
It
loot.
was actually very kind of you to help me out.
I got a blackberry.
Well,
I still haven't gone to see the wizard though, so I don't think I can fit it in.
you should probably go see the wizard since you can do that at any time now.
I'm going fishing.
You could go see the wizard.
No.
My sister.
It's a star blackberry.
You see what I have to deal with? What's funny is this will be exactly how it is once I've taken over the world, too. I'll be like, alright, sis, you need to go to Cambodia. And she'll be like, no. I'll be like, what do you mean, no? No, I'm already heading off to Zimbabwe. But, there's plans! We have schedules! No. But, it's our new special orders board. Well, here we go. Robin and I built it from scratch. Lewis, all you did was hold the nails. Ignore her. Now, let me explain. See, with Runner Farm back in business, local economy's been really picking up. As a result, some of the local townsfolk have been asking me to way to source local ingredients for their businesses or personal projects. So, Robin and I came up with the idea of a special orders board where people could post bigger jobs and would make sense for the old billboard outside Pierre's. Yeah, for example, I plan on requesting some hardwood for a bed I want to make. I won't put you on the spot. If you want to help me out, you can just accept the job from the board. Who knows? Maybe if the bed turns out well, I'll start selling them in my shop. Yeah, I don't even have the ability to chop hardwood yet, but we'll see. I thought so. I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Lore. Oh, see the heart? Totally in with Robin. So can we say you're on board and we're totally out with Robin? Well, I'm sure you're busy, so we won't keep you from your work any longer. As always, I appreciate your willingness to contribute. Take care, Lore. I should look that up while I'm thinking about it. Is it like Harvest Moon? That's an interesting statement. Those key gems. What the hell is a key gem? I know, right, Alex? Hi, Loner. Does the game have an end goal? Yeah, have fun. Technically, there is a way to beat the game now. I don't know if we're gonna make it there. I did that right. Farming, okay. Hey, Robostal. Sorry, I'm looking something up. I think I have an idea where to go with it. Alright, I need to find Penny. Penny! Penny! Are you escaping your drab life from books, or are you taking care of the kids? Don't worry, we will help Penny out, even if we don't marry her. Thank God they patched that in. So she wants 80 hardwood, and he wants 100 grapes. Okay. There's Penny. I won't have any mineral gummies today. Yep, that's the thing. I got an achievement for some reason. She's still not... Oh, she's at the top. We're at 5 stars. Holy crap. Yay. Okay. Yeah, I know, right, Alex? Like, you've got 80 hardwood just lying around, right? And it's like, no. No, I do not. Oh. Alright, so since I've got a cash crop going, finally, I think it's time to start thinking about getting some upgrades going on, speaking of which. And I want to do a little planning. I know we should probably get some mining in, but I really want to get some planning in. What level's my farming at? 7. Oh, good. We're actually pretty far up. 2 more levels in farming, and I could really start getting going on this. Although, of course, that's going to be expensive as hell, but it's doable. I don't know, Evo. It's entirely up to her. As it often is. But I think I spaced this correctly. I'll just use over here as a way to mark this. Where's some tile? Yep, nope, I spaced it perfectly. So we'll be able to put sprinklers right there and get the whole field watered. And that'll be our pattern. Now, that's going to take resources and time, but I like the fact that I did actually plan this out properly, as expected. I'm going to do this one, too, really quick. We need to buy some chickens. Holy crap. Hang on. Go buy some chickens. Quick! Quick! Get out of my way. Out of my way. So I didn't really answer you. So is this like Harvest Moon? The reason I found that amusing is because this game was very much inspired by Harvest Moon. Because Harvest Moon and the Harvest Moon series kind of sucked for a long time. And that's not just my opinion. The very creator of this game had that opinion and thus was like, I want to make a Harvest Moon game that doesn't suck. Listen, Alex. There are stabbings in your future. That's all I'm saying. All the stabs. Alright, because it's Marnie's closed right now. Tomorrow morning we'll buy some frickin' chickens. 4, I think we could fit. Next birthday is Elliot. Elliot, what do you like? Lobster. Duck feather. Pomegranate. Yeah, he's getting a vegetable. Is what he's getting. Oh, that's a good point. We don't have enough money for chickens right now. Because I burnt it. It's okay. This is kind of going according to plan. It's just... I really dove into cranberries. Yeah, cranberries. It'll pay off long term. It's just... No, Animal Crossing... How do I say this as nicely as possible? Sucks. Animal Crossing is... absent gameplay is actually what I want to say. To say it in slightly less aggravating terms. Looking for foraging is wondering. And I mean that with total sincerity. Animal Crossing doesn't really have gameplay. Whereas, as we've already mentioned, there's actually a great deal of complexity and depth to this game's gameplay. It could arguably be better, but still, there's a lot of game on display here. Now, Loner says Ace Combat 0, but I don't see a reason why Loner would say that. But I think Loner is secretly lying to me, and or trying to kill me. Possibly both. Alright, we at with the... This is the... Why does it keep defaulting me to the pantry? Hazelnut, that's the thing I'm missing. I mean, no offense to anybody who likes Animal Crossing. Let me start by saying I legitimately do not enjoy Animal Crossing. That's regardless of my earlier statement, however. Because, again, Animal Crossing is designed to be I'm trying to think of a term for it, because the problem is it's actually kind of rare for a video game to be like that. Animal Crossing is what would usually be called a time waster game, but without the negative connotation. Yeah, a time killer. That's a more neutral way to phrase that. Because the whole point of Animal Crossing is you just kind of roam. It is a true sandbox in the more traditional sense of the word. There's a couple of things you can do. I shouldn't say a couple. That's just disingenuous. There's several things you can do, but none of them really involve gameplay. None of them. There's no challenge or depth or layers or complexity or game there. It's just, oh, what's over here? Oh, I could get this. I could set this up. I'd say the closest thing to gameplay that most Animal Crossing games I've played, and I've played 3 of them, have is the decorative side of things. There's actually a lot of thought put into what you can place where and how, because decorating your farm, your house, your island, your whatever, is a fairly major portion of the game. And that's cool, and a lot of people are into that, and I understand completely why. It's the game we've talked about this before. We've talked about chill games before. It's a perfectly designed game for someone to just sit back and be like, ugh, I just had a really long day at work slash school slash both. Ugh. And you just fire up Animal Crossing and you just go and relax and unwind, right? You de-gauze, as I like to say. Everybody has different de-gauze games. We've actually covered one of them. No Man's Sky is designed to be a similar game like that. Some people play this game like that. But no, it makes perfect sense, Gigapudding, because this game is much more of an economic game than a chill game. And I know that sounds strange, but it's true. I talked about this earlier. I know you weren't here for that, Gigapudding. Yeah. But there's a lot of time and energy economy that's going on in this game. Pretty much all the time. Every second that you're running around, you are burning time. And being efficient, or knowing what you're doing, or trying to line up all of your activities in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish is arguably one of the main gameplay loops here. Not the farming itself, but what do you do with your time? Ironically, I've actually seen an interview that boils down to the idea that the point behind the time limiter mechanic and the energy limiter mechanic was not to make you go, freak out and stress out, but to make this not Animal Crossing. Because in Animal Crossing, you can do whatever essentially infinitely. There's not really a lot of limiters on roaming around and doing. The biggest limiter, which is, there's a term for that, the biggest player friction, I think is what that's called, in Animal Crossing is your inventory space, which is a very solvable problem. There's no management to Animal Crossing, right? Nor is there supposed to be. By contrast, this game is much more like, okay, what do I want to do today? How do I want to do it, etc. And you can go super hog wild and being very efficient about it. People have really min-maxed the crap out of this game. Or you can just kind of play at your own pace, or just do whatever you want to. And that's kind of the point. Anyways, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Is my tea cool enough yet? Grilling combat.
Blackberry. I got a trash berry.
Why is the eggplant in the monster thing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my god. I'm stealing your stone, because we're apparently out of stone.
We're only out of stone because I accidentally sold it anyways.
Okay. Okay, okay. I should hope my sister's asleep because it's getting late.
Nope. I am in the mines.
Oh my god. Run! Run! Run, sis!
I won't be making it.
Run! You can... Okay. See, Planescape would be easier because there's less of it. That was my point, Loner. Like, you're right, obviously, Faerun is more static, but there's so much more of it. And that was the overall thrust of the original concept, was doing Dune, like the whole Dune setting, wouldn't honestly take all that long, because there's not that much to it, relative to some other settings. No!
I am in the bed.
You...
Barely.
Wow. Wow. Hey! Okay, I quickly need to get all these cranberries before my sister steals them. Oh god. There's too many. There's too many cranberries, oh god. No, she's stealing them! No! No! Give me my cranberries back! Give me my cranberries! What's funny is I also need a level farming, because I need to hit level 9 farming. So I can start using sprinklers, so I can stop wasting my entire day, and lots of my viewers' time, watering these things. I love my sister. I really do. She is an amazing woman. My life is better for her being in it. But goddamn it, stop stealing my cranberries! Don't choke to death on the cranberries that you stole. One thing I might ding the game for, and this was actually mentioned earlier, was itemization. I was doing a little digging onto what some of the stuff you can do in order to, set up your farm. And an inordinate amount of it either requires doing Key's minigame thing, which I actually don't know anything about, or just having a crap ton of iridium. And iridium's not easy to come by. In fact, there's no reliable source of iridium that exists. Most iridium farmers just kind of do the staircase method in the Skull Cavern to get iridium. I should mention that I don't even have access to the Skull Cavern yet, for a bit of perspective. Yeah, exactly, Russ. So, my options are endgame or postgame to be able to not have to water my crops every day. That doesn't sound right. There really, really should be more options early on. For example, to use something from Dragon Quest Builders, maybe have the ability to just have people who can water your stuff for you. Or maybe sacrifice some lines in order to literally set up irrigation lines. Yeah, normal sprinkler. So you see this right here? This is a quality sprinkler. It has a pathetically small coverage radius. It's so small, in fact, that I'm not even sure it's really feasible to do long-term. Especially since I literally cannot actually gain access to the materials at the moment in order to make another one. The only one I have, I got from a bundle somewhere. It requires gold. Which makes my point for me. The fact that the pathetic and terrible sprinkler requires gold automatically blocks that behind certain levels of mine progression or whatever else. If I need to use a special setup in order to be efficient, you're just making my point more and more and more for me. The game's itemization, and it is specifically itemization, is actively what I would call bad. I could think of several ways to smooth it out, in several directions. But no, every time I look up what is required for X, Y, or Z, I run into a wall of, well, that's either late game, end game, or hope you brought a walkthrough. And none of those are acceptable answers to that question. Don't mistake me, I like a lot about this game, but it's funny how badly designed it is in several aspects. I suppose I could say the same about a lot of games I like. I mean, that's kind of going back to what I was talking about in PBY. I feel like maybe I've just been playing too many builder games lately, like Grounded and Factorio and Satisfactory, but I feel like there should be more choices and more options for watering other than what I'm doing. But I don't want to circle that drain again. I think it's something that could be improved. I get that there's ways around it. I get that there's other things I could do. That doesn't make it spontaneously become well-designed. It just makes it, you know, less bad. Yeah, I feel like, based on how the game is designed, what I feel like is happening is that if I was to, like, approach the creator and say, you know, everything I just said about the itemization, I have a feeling the response would be something along the lines of, well, then just plant less. And I'm like, I still need a gold bar, so I don't actually have gold yet. I haven't seen much in the way of gold. Hey, Penny. My one true love. The quartz! I thought you liked quartzes. I swear you liked quartzes. Hang on, let me double check that. Oh, no, she doesn't. It's the other one who needs quartz. What does she like? Oh, she likes melons. Right. Robin likes quartzes. Sorry, sorry, you were the wrong wrong redhead. There's too many redheads in this town. My goodness. You know that's a rare trait, right? I do not. I have basic pickaxe, basic axe. I have a copper hoe and a copper pail. I do have mayo on me. Can't give her. Let's give her some mayo. Listen, Penny, I'm very sorry about this here. Have some mayonnaise instead. Homemade mayo. Because that's not gross or anything. I wish to be friends with everybody. Mayonnaise for everybody. Cheese later. We'll figure that out. Unless people don't like cheese. And then cheese for nobody. A blade, huh? Here, have a cold one. I don't drink, but thanks. I like how Shane has this dinky cup. I have this giant, like, thing. Ugh, life. You ever feel like no matter what you do, you're gonna fail? Like you're stuck in some miserable abyss and you're so deep you can't even see the light of day? I just feel like no matter how hard I try, I'm not strong enough to climb out of that hole. Fast drinker, huh? Man after my own heart. Just don't make it a habit. You got a future ahead of you still. Well, my liver's begging me to stop. Better call it a night. See you around, Laura. And honestly, that's kind of Shane in a nutshell right there. Speaking of which, so far the second zone is my favorite, even though it's a local tiny problem, and I'm absolutely giving it a negative to story when we get there. But it's still probably my favorite story line overall. Whoops. Hey, Haley. Wait, Haley, no! I am not digging through the I was talking to Haley! God damn it, game! So first of all, one of the problems Dragonflight in general has is that it's a huge, gigantic, world-ending threat, which I don't believe for a millisecond, and is just actually detracting from my enjoyment of the stories. But the second thing, there's the scene where we're sitting there talking to a leader of a tribe, and a member of another tribe shows up to petition for aid. We are present for this scene. We then stand there and watch some jackass show up and say, "We have decided in very slow, dramatic fashion to declare war against everything." Okay, I'm exaggerating slightly, but the dude takes his freaking time to announce, "Yeah, we're gonna kill y'all," and then kills the other person right in front of me. And we're like, we're just standing there, and it's like, Dude, I've been to space. You know? And I really... It's funny because at this point in my career, I can now prove that it's possible to solve that problem. Let me tell you how you solve that problem. Okay, so the Nakud are attacking. That's the evil tribe. They have been seduced by the evil shamans. They're going to swarm over the zone, and that's awful. Now, we can't fight an army. I mean, we can, but the army is spread out across a huge area. In lore, we do not have the ability to fight an entire war by ourselves. That's fine. That's even good. What they need to do is they need to then point precision us. In story, in lore, have the quest to be about us dealing with the crises, the problem issues, etc. You can still have your little quest on the side. That's fine. We like to help people out. But the point is, we should be being pointed at the biggest local problem and dealing with that, while the story is telling us about the rest of the battles and the rest of the war that's going on in the background. We're still relevant. We don't fix... So we're still relevant, which is one of my biggest problems with this. We don't fix everything with a snap of our fingers because we're not Superman. And we still have, like, the threat. It's still going to cause issues. There's still stakes. There's still scale. It's so easy to understand. Imagine if you're off doing this whole quest chain and you go back to the quest hub to turn in the quests and it's been Tarahoed. Right? Yeah, exactly, Permeus. You send us to go smash their line by ourselves, and there's other stuff happening. Over on the sides, there's other things going on. That's how you solve that. And I mention this because I've heard writers and players and myself talk about how difficult it is to write stories around, main characters who are so powerful and so influential. But the thing is, there's ways to do that, and I'm telling you them. These are solved problems at this point. Sorry, big rant. Don't mind me. It's just it bugs the crap out of me in basically every MMO that I have built that I've ever played and really gotten invested in. And occasionally they get it right, and usually they don't. And it's just, come on! Well, no, you're absolutely right, Pillar of Snow. We were talking about this just a few days ago. One of the biggest problems that most MMOs face is they don't know what class you are. They can't design a cutscene. Major Tom loves me, yay! They can't design a cutscene around, an arcane mage, because there's specs too, not just classes. An arcane mage and an arms warrior and a subtlety rogue equally, right? So this is a problem. Warcraft in general has this problem. A lot of fiction has this problem. Threats are almost always existential rather than something threatening. If you've heard me complain about this before, it's because you've heard me talk about anything ever. Because I've spent years of my life covering Star Trek. It's the red shirt effect. It is. Do you know why they kill red shirts? It's because unless the threat of the week is something that is threatening, like the threat is something that will kill or destroy or annihilate you, then it's not a threat, right? And it's so goddamn cheap. There are ways to threaten without pointing a gun at the main characters. There are ways to threaten without actually trying to be like, so, now that I have you in my mind, I can absolutely annihilate everything and kill everyone and destroy. There are other things that can threaten. And you're probably thinking, well, what's so threatening about the primalists? Well, obviously, the way the game is portraying it is as if they're super doomy, just like everything else, and it's boring and it's dumb. But why not have them be a threat to the policies, the operations, how the dragons have and continue to operate around the rest of the races? Maybe because the dragons have been, for lack of a better way to put it, cool with the mortal races for frickin' millennia. Oh my god, I think there's holes in my fence. Hang on. No, okay, we're good for the time being. Yeah, it's a good example, Ross. MLP is kind of a poster child for making things threatening without threatening to kill people. But anyways, and so make it a frickin' political change, make it a bureaucratical change, make it a regime change instead of making them being. And it's just, ugh, I'm sick of it. Okay, I'm done. Rant off. Rant off. Yeah, and every now and again, they did have a big threat. And what's funny is they did their big threats very well. I'm not going to spoil, but you remember the lead up to the big conclusion in the last season, in season 9? That was extraordinarily well done. And properly terrifying. Now, if you do something, big, doomy every week, well... Exactly, Space Cadet. Exactly. I actually agree with that, Pillars of Snow. Endwalker, I have a lot of praise for FF14. And I do think Endwalker stumbled several times. But Endwalker had a big doomy threat, but honestly was more focused on the local things. And I really think it was the better for it. Sebastian's the other one. Sebastian and Sam. So have some mayonnaise, Pam. Hi, Gus. Some mayonnaise. Hi, Emily. Mayonnaise. Hey, Shane. Mayonnaise. Harvey. Mayonnaise. Willie. Mayonnaise. Because I have a regular, repeatable source of mayonnaise, and I haven't been giving gifts pretty much all year, because I haven't had a reliable source of gifts. But now I do. And mayonnaise is liked by all but 5 characters. Not... And when I say liked, I mean there's like love, like, neutral, dislike, hate. So like is almost as good as it gets. I mean, look at all that friendship. Look at it. Beautiful. Everybody likes us except for Clint. Everybody likes you, Clint. I'm glad you're liking them, Panka. Every now and again I look at the viewing figures... the engagement figures on the highlight reels, and I think that people aren't even watching them. But it's nice to know that somebody is. Elite Dangerous is absolutely player-generated content. Sure, here's the relationship twist. And that was it. Any questions? To Mr. Pierre, it pains me to be the bearer of bad news, but I feel obligated to inform you of a recent development most threatening to your livelihood. Joja-Cola Corporation, has decided to expand into Pelican Town. It's too late for protest. Joja builders have already broken ground for the new Joja Mart. This must be devastating news for you. So many years in business, a local standby now obscured by the shadow of a powerful, efficient, economically viable corporation. What a shame. As a manager of the new Joja Mart, I feel to some degree personally responsible for your predicament. As such, I'd like to offer you a position as an assistant grocer. Wages start at 5 gold an hour. I look forward to seeing your resume. So anyways, that's right, this is the life of a farmer. Vast, barren terrain. Fishing. All by himself. Nobody loves him. Nobody cares about him. He's just fishing the trash out of his pond. A little violin starts playing. I've referenced this a couple of times. At one point in the game, the only way to help Penny get out of her not great life was to romance her. If you didn't, she was just stuck in that life, and that was it. That has since been fixed. That's nice. But, I just mentioned that because back in the day I was like, well, guess I only have one choice, don't I? Oh my god. Oh no! Oh god. Oh god. That slime. That slime slimed me. Slime me. Okay, hang on. Back to the wall. Back to the wall. Yeah, it helps Pam, too. Especially when we get her job going again. Okay. So that happened. You little snot. Oh, God. Oh, God. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I hate slimes. Come on, give me the way down. 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 I have got to have the worst luck today. Holy crap. And here comes more mobs. I really could use that way down. I'm going to not give Sebastian a gift because it has taken me so long to find the way down on this floor. Oh my god. I don't have time for this bat. Go away. I got a geode, so that's cool. I am at 1 health now. Where's the way down? Oh my god! I'm at 3 health. Okay. You win, game! Jesus Christ! Wow! Averaging, Micromono? Like, I feel like I literally just answered your question, Micromono. I didn't decide 40. The system decided 40. Like, it's not like I sat down and said, and lo, behold, 40 shall be the number which this shall be thine. Verily and forthwith, on yonder window, light breaks, and lo, it does come before the dawn, and with the dawn there shall be the number 40. That doesn't work that way. So, hey, character. A pacifist hero. And no, I don't write Jedi. George, I'll be honest with you. You need to make some changes in your lifestyle if you want to stay healthy. I'd like you to reduce your sodium intake and try to get some moderate exercise with your arms. Humph. I know what's best for me. Who do you think you are? Telling me how to live my life. I'm your doctor, George. That's who I am. And I went to school for 8 years so I could learn how to help people stay healthy. Oh, I'm sorry. You shouldn't be here. These checkups are supposed to be private. Not so fast. I'd like to get a second opinion from this young man who has no medical experience whatsoever. What do you think George should do? You should probably have a frickin' brain. See, George, I'm just trying to help you. I'll do what you say, Doctor. Thanks for your help, Lore. I appreciate it. Yeah, sure. Here, let me make it up to you, George. By giving you a jar of mayonnaise. Let's do this. So a day off is when a person goes a whole day without doing any work. Just things they want to do for themselves. I'm not following. Like, so
The
they...
thing that my brother doesn't understand.
So they get work done that isn't, like, on-camera work? Does that make sense?
No, that...
So they get, like, personal work done.
No.
So they...
No.
I didn't even say anything yet.
Yep. And the answer is no.
Run. Must hide. She found me. She found me. Run. Run. Okay. I think I lost her. Means I can get her. No. 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 don't think she sees me. Ah, run! Oh, okay. I accept the question. Now run! Aw. I have a few mayonnaise. Peace offering. Peace offering. So, yay for indie and AA space actually managing to make games that aren't just the big blockbuster sellers. It reminds me of something we were talking about yesterday, I want to say. You know how I had that big rant? Yeah. You know, I had that big rant about how much I just don't care about stories that are all about the next big existential death threat. Right? That whole rant. Well, I've kind of discovered that the really big, expansive, extensive, AAA titles just aren't as interesting to me anymore. Now, don't mistake me. There's some good ones out there. To say that every AAA game is bad is just eyebrow-raising. But you know what I mean. The games that mega sell. The games that sell way too well. And make billions of dollars. And the games that these companies want to make, right? Those games interest me less and less and less the further on I go. And even those have some exceptions. I actually really liked Modern Warfare 1 Remake. Go figure. Wasn't expecting to. I was expecting that to be a cheap cash grab, and it was actually a good frickin' game, so color me shocked. And of course, I am quite fond of Grand Theft Auto 5. Still the best-selling game ever. Leah's birthday next. Does she like mayonnaise? I bet she does. Hey, she likes mayonnaise. What do you know? Perfect. I bet you Clint likes mayonnaise, too. We're just good for birthdays forever. Happy birthday! Didn't you give me this last week? Shut up. EVE Online is a game in which you, in a dinky little nothing ship, can go fly out. I don't know if you can actually do this anymore, but this was something someone I knew used to do. Fly out, find one of the enemy mining ships, and just start plinking at them. Now, you can't really destroy that mining ship, but while you're doing that, they can't mine. So you are holding them hostage. Now, if they decided... There we go. If they decided to go send anybody after you and kill you, they'd crush you in seconds. Because you got nothing, right? Like you're in this dinky little destroyer and they can bring out something real and just smash you in the face. But here's the thing. It would take them so long just to get the ship out there. There we go. To get the ship out there. And the entire time you are preventing them from mining. Now, in a game where economics is one of the primary fundamental models, in any game like that, even online, money, time is the most valuable resource. You always have to think about things in terms of time. So the amount of money they would lose during the amount of time, like even if they immediately sent out a message and got someone to come stop him, the amount of time that it would take them to do that, during which they're not mining, would cost them tremendously. Or you could pay him a ransom. Give him some money, and he goes away. And, of course, the money he asks for is less than the cost of, the aforementioned time loss. Guess what most players would do? That's the gameplay. That's the content of EVE Online, right there. Obviously, it's not the only content, but you get the idea. There's a lot of different stuff you can get. Some of it's kind of worthless, but most of it's really good. You can, however, get clay. So I guess this isn't as bad as it could be. Robin can give you wood and stone. Don't read too much into that sentence.
Say hi, stream.
Where is it?
It's on the computer. Say hi, stream.
I don't see the stream anywhere.
You don't see the stream anywhere? Can you say hi, stream?
Yeah.
You didn't see it. It's right here. say hi. Say hi.
I
Now say hi, stream.
dream.
Now say Uncle Warbro is evil.
Hey!
Who is evil?
Did you hear it?
Yes, I did. And so did everyone watching this.
Say, I'm the ruler of the world.
I'm not hearing anything.
Say, I'm the ruler of the world.
I rode the road.
That. Yep. Yep. Sis, you killed me.
I've killed you?
I.
How did I kill you?
Oh my god. Oh my god. I need to wipe my eyes off. Oh my goodness. That was way too adorable.
Say, I'm not evil. Say, Mama's not evil. Say, Uncle Lorbro is evil.
And girl.
We can barely hear her at this point.
Yeah, I know. She's decided she's gonna start whispering.
Mumble, mumble, mumble.
Say, roar!
T-Rex.
Are you a T-Rex? Not anymore.
She stopped being a T-Rex. That's impressive, really. Not many people can claim that. Oh my gosh. So says someone in chat says, Laura, have you considered getting a new donation sound? I have a perfect suggestion. Sis, are you gonna go to bed?
Oh, shoot, yes.
Will she make it, ladies and gentlemen? Place your bets. Ah, she made it. I mean, that's a good thing that she made it. With 10 minutes to spare. Sis, Emily drugged me.
Did she now?
I mean, I know you can't see stream.
What did she drug you with?
I'm not sure. I don't know drug. Yep. Definitely drugging it up. I can taste purple. I'm being told by chat I am currently under the effects of LSD. Aliens? How does she know? Stardew Valley is probably going to be a triple quality of life positive game, and I know that sounds weird, but it would be almost impossible for me to sit down and recite all of the different things that this game does to make it more convenient to play. There is an enormous quantity of gameplay and story segregation to make the game more convenient and fun and less of a hassle to play. And I honestly think that's one of the things that works best about it, is the quality of life features. And speaking of which, I should write that down before I forget about it. So hang on, I'm gonna clip this on the off chance anybody actually watches this highlight reel, because this is something everybody needs to know in general. Ross just asked, can we reallocate donations? You can actually always do that. There's nothing preventing you from ever reallocating a donation. I prefer you don't give me too much paperwork to do, but if you're going to go ahead and just remove from one thing and push to another, just say so. That's easy. You can always reallocate. Oh my god. I love you, Mom. My mother just said, that sounds like Farmville. No, it really isn't. Like, it's literally an insult. Farmville is such a garbage nothing but burger that calling this Farmville is actually insulting. Hell, comparing any game to Farmville is insulting. You know what? Yeah, that's a good comparison, Space Cadet. Yeah, I'm playing Star Trek Online. Is that like Fleet Command? Can I make the two? I can. Perfect. Whoops. That's... Ah! No! Damn it! If I could wish one series from my childhood, it'd be Mega Man.
You could wish one series from your childhood. What?
If you could wish, I'll ask you this question too, sis. If you could wish for one series from your childhood to be brought back to prominence, what would it be?
Duck Hunt.
I... Okay.
Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna put a baby down for a nap.
Did you hit okay?
No, because you haven't been to bed yet.
Wait. Okay, hit okay. She hit okay, right? She definitely didn't just walk away, right? Well... okay, well, this is our life now. So anyways... we do still shove Remans into the warp core, yes. Even though Remans don't exist. Hey, Lieutenant Leroy. I know, right? It's funny that Voyager was as good as it was, considering how bad it was. Willie, a little bit of personal space, Willie? Please? So there will definitely be things where stuff will be relevant outside of its given show. Because apparently, John, because we have the advantage of being able to plan everything out from the beginning. Like, for example, when we're writing TOS, we know Section 31 exists. Whereas in real life, Section 31 didn't exist until the end of Deep Space Nine, right? So we can plan for things like Section 31 existing. We can plan for the Borg. We can plan for the Q. We can plan for the Dominion. You know, we can plan for the crystalline entity if we want to do that. That's part of the whole point of the rewrite, is being able to know the whole picture before we start writing. I feel like I just said that, but it's still worth repeating. Yeah, actually having the power of hindsight does wonders for rewriting. It's one of the reasons why I could say definitively that I believe the Star Trek rewrite will be better written than Star Trek. Not because I am a better writer than the Trek writers, but because I have the power of hindsight. What it took them 40 years to put together across dozens and hundreds of different writers and creators and producers, I can just sit down and do, and coordinate. Well, that is a tremendous superpower, if you will. Actually, yeah, Mr. Matternaut. One of the biggest ways both me and Mr. Reloaded have been talking about it is we're trying to Babylon 5 Star Trek. We have plot threads, we have arcs, we have character development, we want things to move forward, we want to be really big on continuity. If something happens in an episode, it doesn't magically go away at the end of the episode, right? That's honestly one of the biggest things we've been trying to push for with regards to the rewrite. Well, I mean, we could rewrite Battlestar, but A, I don't like Battlestar, and B, I don't know Battlestar. And I know that's, it's alien, there's an alien ship, holy crap! I don't know why I like Star Trek as much as I do, given how much of a continuity hound I am. I've been into continuity since I was a child. Like, single-digit range child. I came out of the womb. Write this down, right? I'm not really joking, though. I can point to cartoon shows I used to watch as a kid, and I was more invested when there was continuity involved. And it was probably at least partially because of the fact that it was so damn rare. I mean, you think there's no continuity in Star Trek. Have you seen the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons? Or the old Disney cartoons? There was like an anti-continuity going on. In fact, decades later, I discovered why I didn't like Darkwing Duck. Let's just sell these, screw it. And it's because Darkwing Duck was deliberately anti-continuity. which I didn't know. I didn't know it at the time. I thought I just kept missing episodes. It wasn't until literally decades later, like I'm talking about a few years ago, that I found an interview by the main producer who worked on Darkwing Duck, who actually talked about how they deliberately produced episodes out of order and deliberately contradicted themselves on purpose frequently, just to screw up the episode, because they wanted to have they call it yo-yo continuity, which is actually a thing. It's a thing I hate, but it is an actual thing. So I should explain this really quick. Yo-yo continuity is when there's a starting point that's pretty much always the same, right? Batman, the Joker, Gotham, right? That's the starting point. And the starting point's always the same up here. But then, you yo-yo out for a specific episode, or comic, or book, or game, or movie, and then, once that's done, you're back to default. Next episode, we start from default again. I hate that with a violent passion, but that is the specific way Darkwing Duck was done. Which is why it makes no goddamn sense if you just sit down and watch the whole show. I actually counted. Negaduck has 3 completely separate and contradictory origin stories, just in the original show. But yes, there was the biggest reason for yo-yo continuity to exist is not creative. It is financial. This is true for both television shows and for comic books. You can buy any random comic book, doesn't matter if you've got the previous ones, and you can watch any random episode, doesn't matter if you've seen the previous ones. And that was desirous. That was something they wanted. Which I say that so weirdly because to me that's just bonkers, but I get it, kinda. Reminder of the time. Also, it is cutoff time stream-wise.
Why can I not go that way? There's stuff in the way.
20 minutes, 10 minutes remaining.
Oh, right.
You made it! I really didn't think you were going to make that one.
Stuck on I don't know what.
Well, congratulations. Let's try the horse. This is apparently the horse. Interesting. I think it's faster. May have to look this up later. Figure out some specifics. Oh, jeez. See, Blade Turnbull gets it. The whole reason Mass Effect 3's ending was the way it was wasn't because they were terrible writers who wrote themselves into a corner and had no idea what they were doing. No, it's because they were trying to teach people what colors were. Red is the color of destruction. It's when everything goes boom. Green is the color of joy. It's when everything is right. Blue is the color of bad. It's when everything is wrong. Which color is your favorite? Which of these 16 colors is your favorite? There she is. Hi. Not that you can hear me. She's trying to kill me! I was just saying hi! She can't find me now. I'm safe behind the thing. Oh god! Oh god! Okay, okay. It's okay. I'm gonna hide or she'll never find me. On her face. She'll never find me here. No! No! Oh god! She still saw me! She's got eyes of an eagle, that one. Pop up. Oh jeez, it's getting late. It's getting late. Must run. Must sleep. Okay, sleep. But I'm not being stabbed as I sleep. Let's talk about the Skull Cavern. Skull Cavern sucks. The Skull Cavern was the old endgame, which we've actually already shown, honestly, to my satisfaction. Skull Cavern is lots of enemies that are very high damaging. They don't have a lot of health, but they do tons of damage, which itself wouldn't be that bad if not for the fact that there's very little in this game to help you mitigate damage. Each level of combat gives you a little bit extra HP, And if you dig into the cavern, you will get a little bit extra HP boost. And otherwise, every defense point is literal. So I have 3 defense on that boot. So if I get hit for 5, I actually get hit for 2. Very linear defense calculation, ratio, whatever you want to call that. So, there's not a lot of defense in the game. What the game expects you to do is to be already at the end game, having done everything else, and you're at the point where you really want Iridium, because the only reason to go to the Skull Cavern, really, is for Iridium. So you go into the Skull Cavern, and the further down you go, the higher drop chance of Iridium. Every level increases the drop chance for Iridium linearly. So when you get down to about 200 or so, yes, really, that's when you really start to get a higher chance of actually getting the stuff. I should also mention that time flows more slowly in the Skull Cavern in order to help accommodate players going way, 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 way down into the depths. That's kind of it. There's not a lot of pieces in place to help mitigate how much it's irritating. It's irritating. It's horrifically time-consuming. But arguably worst of all, it's boring. There's nothing to it. There's no, design or, frankly, skill involved. It's literally just, yep, keep going down, keep going down. Make sure you came with all the prep food, because you're supposed to walk in there with like an entire bar of just buff food. And or stone, and or staircases. And that's it. That's Skull Cavern. Not great. Now, as it happens, there are other dungeons that have been added since then. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit, but I'm not going to talk about it now because I'm not sure if I'm right yet or not. But it's my presumption that that was thrown into the game as, let's call it what it is, very basic endgame, so that there was an endgame in the game. And the idea here is that the new endgame stuff, which was mostly added in 1.5, will hopefully be actual, proper endgame. Hello, Russ. We'll find that out soonish, hopefully. And by soonish, I mean probably not today at all. My niece is like, I'm out! Peace! Gosh, there's the comparison of the mount speed right there. Direct comparison. Alright, I need to plant this right now. You can put a hat? I didn't know you could do that. I need to see this when I get back to the house. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh my god, that's adorable. Oh my god. Also, I like your new hat. But seriously, that is so cute. It's so cute. It's so cute. I need to go check the house. The mouse. The hat mouse. Oh my god, Willy. Really? Willy. Willy! Yep, I got your back covered in mayo. It's great for sunscreen. Okay. So let's pop that. Let's figure out how to use that. There we go. And then let's do that. Let's see if we can catch this stupid thing. See if we can get one to proc at all, and then let's see if we can catch it. Jesus. A sturgeon. Okay. I'm not even going to argue that. I am not even going to go. Nope, we're good. We're good. We got a sturgeon. Ketchup on spaghetti. Hang on, let me throw up really quick here. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way. Ketchup on... hang on, gotta throw up again. See, I've thought before that I would love to be able to live in a small town like this, but the problem is there's a lot of provisos on top of that. And the only way I could ever do that is if I had infinite power or won the lottery. And you're probably thinking, why, Lord? Well, first of all, there's a lot of baggage that comes along with moving out into a town like this. Second of all, you want to make, like, remember how much stuff was handed to us in this very game, right? All that stuff is very expensive, especially to maintain. Never mind to get it in the first place. But also because I would want to be able to inject some money into the community to keep it going. Because, well, there's a reason this town was literally dying in lore before we showed up. Like, this town was going to get run over and turned into another truck stop. I've talked about this before. That's the primary plot of the game. And we can either help it die or renovate it. And renovating takes a whole lot of money, doesn't it? Anyways. It's a good thing you turned up, lad. I've got a bit of a problem I could use a hand with. Oh, what's up, Willie? It'd be best if I just showed you. Take a deep breath now. Sure, what do you got to show me, Willie? Willie? You got crabs, Willie. Agricultural subsidies? I mean, subsidies in general are the kind of thing that need to exist. As weird as that may sound. You're probably thinking, but why, Laura? Well, subsidies are a form of oversight. They're a way to say, okay, here's an exception to the normal tax code, or here's an exception to the normal rules that will allow you to do something that we need you to do. As I've actually mentioned yesterday, something that is a problem in multiple countries and kingdoms throughout history is that people would try to only grow or work jobs that made more money, and food started to become an issue. So, having something like a subsidy... And by the way, it's worth noting that subsidies can take a lot of different forms. Tax breaks, or guaranteed sales prices, or standardized purchasing orders, stuff like that. There's a lot of ways to do subsidies, but the point is, a subsidy is a way to have that kind of oversight of, okay, here, we want this to happen, or perhaps we need this to happen. We need people to be making corn. We need people to be making wheat. We need people to be making cows and milk and all sorts of other fun stuff like that. So here, please do. Because the free market left without a guiding hand turns into insanity very quickly. That's not presumption, that's historical fact. Now, of course, I'm referring to a truly free market, which we don't have. We have a free market with guiding hand. Which I don't even have to prove because subsidies exist, but I'm getting off topic. Anyways, that's my thoughts in a nutshell. TED Talk, etc. While we're here, there's something I've been meaning to do for a minute, and I haven't, mostly because of flagrant stupidity. Something I'm well known for. So we haven't updated the HUD in a minute. Now, some of these are still question marky. Right now, we are at... there. And that's the score as of this moment. Here's an interesting question. What video games do you think the eligible bachelors would enjoy in this game? Let's see. Abigail would be into JRPGs, obviously. Penny... I feel like Penny would play The Sims religiously. Oh yeah, Shane would be into anything with power fantasy. Honestly, he'd probably get a game that's cheap, but he can play for a long period of time. So let's be honest, Shane would play Skyrim. No offense to anybody like Skyrim, that's not the intention of that statement. It's just, that's probably what Shane would play, because you can get that for like $10 or $5 or whatever, and play it for a very long period of time. Elliot would like some kind of super artsy indie game that's not actually all that good, but he just likes to brag that he plays that game. Haley would play Pokemon Snap. Emily would play one of those weird indie games that nobody's ever heard of, but she actually likes it. Abigail, Emily, Maru would play Kerbal Space Program. Sam would play Fortnite. Leia would play like a builder or maker game, like Minecraft or something similar. Harvey would play EVE Online. He's also bad at it. Alex would say video games are a waste of his time. Sebastian plays Doom. And that's everyone. Okay. So, what do I think about Harry Potter being controversial? Okay, so we've got goblins being anti-Semitic. Nope. House elves being slaves. That's just bad writing. That's not controversial. What else you got? Because I'm not sure what other controversial things are in Harry Potter. Unless you mean the fact that you can buy a love potion on the local drugstore without a script. So, here's the thing. Almost everything that someone can point to and be like, oh my god, it's terrible about Harry Potter, is something that came about because of underthought. Not really considering or thinking about the consequences of the actions they were positing. So I have a hard time actually finding Harry Potter controversial for the same reason I don't find Star Trek controversial. Star Trek, I remind you, in canon, in lore, regularly scans all the brain patterns of the people on board like a ship or a space station or whatever, as just a part of a regular thing. That's not controversial, because the writer didn't think about it. That's the whole point of underthought, is that they didn't think about it. Harry Potter's the same way. The House Elves needed to exist because they needed Harry Potter, I think that was 2, specifically, to exist. And nobody thought about the consequences or realities or byproduct of what having House Elves, aka regular servitor species, would mean. Nobody thought about it. Underthought. Harry Potter, it's worth noting, is absolutely rife with underthought. Yeah, the Time Turner exists in that. And I mentioned this kind of jokingly earlier, but again, you can buy a love potion at the local candy store. That doesn't work that well, but you can still do that. Yeah, if you pay attention to the books, you'll notice that the further into the series you get, the more some of these things are just kind of shoved into the background, and everyone just kind of pretends they never existed. Because, you know, oops, that doesn't work. So, in short, no, I don't find Harry Potter particularly controversial. Miss Rowling herself is very controversial, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to share this with Stream and my sister, because I just discovered something about this game. If you just straight up hold down right-click and walk through, you auto-loot and auto-place. No, I didn't know that until today. I discovered that this morning. That makes doing, like, these things so much easier. So there's my little pro tip for the day.
I do like the hat you put on the horse.
It's very cute. 2 legit from insurance. Oh god, please. Oh jeez. I think I'm about to get raided. Quite a bit. Which I'm not sure what to make of that.
Very bottom level of the mine.
Sis?
What?
I think I'm about to get raided, so FYI.
Raided?
Yes. But hi, Carnage, someone who is much more popular than me. Yep, that is 8,135 people. That's... Oh my god. It means I'm getting sub-bombed. Oh my god. Oh my god. Sis?
Is it good?
Merry Christmas, everyone. I know you can't see me because I'm currently buried beneath a notification that's going to be playing for like 6 minutes. But Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas Eve. I do hope you're actually enjoying and staying warm wherever you are. I know a lot of places and a lot of countries right now are having some temperature issues. So please
Is
stay
this a
bundled.
good thing?
Shush. Please stay bundled. Yes, this is a good thing.
Okay. I'm just confused. I've never
Don't
heard
be
of
confused. Don't be confused.
What do I
It's
do
okay.
on floor 120?
I don't know. What can you do on floor 120?
I don't know. It's the last floor. I can't go anywhere, but there's nothing here.
I I don't even know how to process this.
This is not what I was expecting.
You're fine, Co. I wasn't expecting anything. Holy crap. I was just chilling, you know? I know a lot of some people were asking why I'm even streaming on Christmas Eve, and it's like, you know, not everyone has someone they can reach or someone that they can actually interact with, and so I figured we'll just kind of chill here, right? We'll play Stardew Valley. This is a great game to just kind of chill to and chat and talk and just kind of keep each other company and keep our spirits warm. And I figured, sure, why not, right? I wasn't expecting a couple of people to show up in chat. So, another thing I like to do is I like to bow, just as a way to be like, thank you very much. Usually what I do is I bow per sub.
So bow 8,000 times.
I could bow. I don't actually know how much. I don't have a metric. Nothing is telling me how many subs just got dumped on my face. So I could just bow for the next hour. Just really, really flex the muscles there. Like, yep. This is my life now. I do want to say thank you to Narset. I did see that you dropped a donation there in the middle of that. Thank you, Narset, very, very much. And you put that towards Dungeon Siege 2, which I will put it towards. Thank you very much. And I do have to say a thank you to everybody. I don't think my usual method is going to be able to deal with this volume. But for anybody who just subbed, thank you very, 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 very much. Always appreciate support. Always appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. I don't know what else to say to that. I have had an interesting life, and I've had an interesting week, and that's honestly probably going to be turned right around into giving gifts to my niece, who's right here. This is my niece. Hi, niece. Here, waggle to say hello. You don't have to. There she goes. She's waggling. Waggling. And I will probably be buying her Sour Patch Kids, because she really likes Sour Patch Kids. I need to get the watermelon ones, you know? Like, I can't find those anywhere. And they don't even want to deliver them on Amazon, so I'm going to have to find someplace that has the watermelon Sour Patch Kids to get for her. And, of course, I'll get her regular Sour Patch Kids, too. Don't worry, kiddo. I'll get you both. I'll get you both. I'll even get you ice cream. Here, have some ice cream. Yeah, come back here. Come back here. No! Where'd she go? I lost her. No! I've lost my niece. It was all for nothing. It was all for nothing. Alright. Green. I wish to wager everything. All in. And that is why I don't gamble in real life. I accept that. I accept that outcome. Okay, so now, where's my horse? Where did my horse drop off? Real story. So, one time I went to Vegas. This was... Gosh, I don't know. I want to say I was about 26, 27, something like that. This was just a regular visit to see the family. And while I was there, one of my aunts flat out said, all right, Lore, because of course she would call me Lore. Lore, you are going to gamble. You're not going to just take the money and go do something else with it. You are going to actually go and gamble with it. And that's the requirement. I'm like, okay. Because obviously before then, if they give me money for gambling, I would just take the money and say thank you. I was obviously grateful. But, you know, I don't like gambling. So she forced me to go gamble. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I went, hit up one of the slots, did a pull, did a second pull, lost everything, and moved on. No, we're not. Have some mayonnaise to help you with all that muscle building. Just slather the mayo on the muscles. We're good, we're good. You know what I should do? I should just be a Santa cowboy. Hang on. So we'll get this going on. Hold up, hold up. And then... what do you think? Hi, my name's the Lore Runner. I'm a loser. Oh, that's weird. Please move, cat. Please move, cat. Oh my god. The cat was like, no. Who would win? A 500-pound horse or a 20-pound cat? I have no idea how much a horse weighs. Don't. You know, something I've noticed. One of our favorite things, like, we all like building games, right? Okay, some of us like building games, right? And most of us who like building games, most people I know who like building games, we like to show off after we've built. It's like, hey, check this out. And then and it's just like, oh god, I got this, and I got this over here, and this good thing. And there's always that bit of embarrassment as it's like, well, you know, it doesn't look that impressive, but I spent a really long time on it, you know? Yeah, like Stronghold or Valheim is another more modern example. Minecraft for an older example. You get the idea. And it's a really common thing I've seen all over the place. You know, I consider you my closest friend of the Valley. You never tried to fix me. You respect my way of life, even if you don't understand it. I really appreciate that. Can you smell that? The sweet aroma of ripe berries. Interesting. He was never heard from again.
You say that, but I'm not good at video games.
I didn't say anything. So, lots of time spent. Finally get to spend a little bit of time with the kids. That was awesome. Rotate back around, and I'm like, hey. And my middle niece. So I'm packing up to leave, right? Taking some of the leftovers. God, we cooked so much food. Packing up to leave, and she like leans in and essentially glomps my arm. So she's just hugging my arm because I'm a kind of a big guy and my arms are huge. So she's just wrapped her whole body around here. She says in the tiniest, cutest voice, which I couldn't possibly emulate, "Don't go." And I'm like, what? No, why? Why? Why would you do this? And she's like, I just don't want you to go. I'm like, well, I'll be back next week. I come by every week just to hang out with you. She's like, but I want you to stay now. And so I died. We cooked for like 10 people and we had 6. So, whoops, as they say. It's an ancient seed. It's an ancient seed. Oh my god. Oh my god. We finally got an ancient seed. Holy crap. So, Guild Wars 2's map, by contrast, is amazing. Let's start with this. So here's the world map. Now, if you're paying any kind of attention, you've already noticed the distinction between this map and most other games. And that's the fact that zone maps and the world map are actually the same thing. You don't change between the world map and the zone maps. You just zoom in on the domain of Abby or zoom out in order to see the overall. Now, if you pay careful attention, you'll notice that there's a detailing difference once you zoom in. It'll, like, I'll try to, you see right there? And right there, do you see that? So it does actually change between the detailed map and the zoomed out map. And that's how it functions. But the other thing with the most recent expansion, they gave this button right here. Do you see this in the lower right? This is a brilliant feature. I'm not actually joking. Why is this muted? Hang on just a second. Why are you muted? There we go. So this gives us the Maguma area. This gives us the Tyria area. This gives us the Crystal Desert. And this gives us Cantha. So the reason this is so relevant is this takes a minute to do otherwise. And it's just a nice little convenience feature to be able to zoom around. Because this is a huge map. One of the larger maps out there. Not the largest, obviously, but it's pretty big. So all of this is just in terms of interface and control and all that fun kind of started design. But hang on. The other thing this does right is it is useful. You know me. Aesthetics only go so far. So let's look at the zone we're in right now. Now, just looking at this at a glance, you could probably tell most of what you're looking at immediately. Even if you don't know what any of those icons mean, you can tell here's a road. Can you see them? You can't see the mouse. If you look where I am, right there, you can see north of me is a road, and that road kind of goes over there. You can see where the hills are. You can see a little bit of terrain indicator. You can see where the water is. You can see it's very obvious where the towns are. And, of course, you can generally see where zone lines are, like up over here. But then we add the icons. Now, the icons are cool in general. So we've got waypoints, which is where you can teleport to. Quest hubs, like that thing over there. There's a vendor. Up here we have a hero point. Over here we have a mastery point. There's a point of interest. Yada, yada, yada. So there's tons of good interface design in terms of icons and what they mean. But hang on, it gets even better than what you already think it is. Because if I go to a zone I haven't completed, give me a second to find one. Because I've actually almost swept the map. Oh, up here, right. I've almost swept the map, but not quite. So let's teleport really quick. By the way, you can teleport from the map, like I just did. It's another good quality of life change. So here we are. We're in this town. You'll notice that this is loud. You can tell this is loud. Let's get on the wrong mount. There we go. Yeah, let's get to someplace a little more quiet. Guild Wars 2, whenever we review it, is going to get a lot of visual aesthetic positives, by the way. Especially on the viscerality side of things. Because this is my freaking mount. It's made of lightning. Anyways. So hold on. So I haven't finished this zone, right? Oh, there's a dead ally right there. If you look in the upper left, up here-ish, you can kind of see that, I know it's right below the timer. You can see that there's a completion thing. It tells me I have 0 of 13 hearts, 2 of 6 hero challenges, 6 of 14 teleport spots, 0 of 8 vistas, and 1 of 14 points of interest. But that's not the cool part. Let me zoom out a bit and do this. Do you see that little sparkle? That, if I mouse over, that tells me the ones that I haven't gotten yet. Like that. Now, you can't see all of them, but you get the idea, right? So you can actually have a bit of an indicator on specifically what you're missing on the map, kind of like Metroid Dread. And it shows you that per zone, but it also shows you it per world. If you notice, I can do that for the entire world, too. And just find all that stuff there. I have 87% world completion, and I'm actually quite proud of that, thank you very much. I'll probably never finish that. But damn it, that's a lot. So, this is probably the best map in MMOs, and all of that is why. Also, when you're super zoomed out, you can see your current quests. That's the green thing. You can see the current zone line. That's over there. You can see dungeons up here. You can see raids. You can see fractals. I think there's a couple other things you could see. I could be wrong. Yeah, let's go down here. Boop. Is this game any good? I think it's a good game. So, what is the goal? So, there's actually a lot of goals, but the primary... Let's talk about this for just a second. Because some people think this is a farming game, and it isn't. Hear me out for just a second. This is the primary focus of the game right here, this screen. Gaining rep with people, which is these hearts, represented by these hearts, giving them gifts, talking to them, learning about their character, learning about their lives, seeing their cutscenes, seeing their stories develop. This is the meat content, the main story quest of this game. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this and go about this, and you, of course, need to have something to support this. You need to have income or resources or whatever, so you can do all of these things. You can go farming, you can go mining, foraging, fishing, and fighting. All of those things allow you to progress, and obviously we've been doing primarily farming, because I actually enjoy farming the most, but as you can see we did a bit of the other stuff. This is a bit of a management sim. There's a lot of time, energy, and resource management that goes into it, about what you can build, when and where and why and how. There's a lot of... So one of the things that I mentioned, for example, is let's say that you've got one crop that takes this many days to produce, and then this many days to turn into an artisan craft, right? So you can do this, and then have this money get out of it. Now that's the best money, right? So you have to consider the seasons on top of that, and you have to consider the specific days of the season, because there's only 28 days per month, per season. And so if you have something that will grow every 5 days, you can, on the 25th day, you're just bleeding out 3 days and nothing's happening. So you have to think about that when it comes to that. Now, there's ways around that. There's obviously the greenhouse, but there's also other ways to try and stagger that. Because what some people do is they'll deliberately get a crop which will produce and then produce here in a way that it staggers, so that you'll have a line of crops here, and then a line of crops here, and then a line of crops here, and they'll produce on different days, so there's no days being wasted trying to get that efficiency. And so forth and so on. That's kind of meat gameplay when it comes to this game. It's also, none of that is necessary. Everything I just said is optional. It's a very chill game, or a very stressful game, dependent entirely upon how you play it, and what you want out of it. Oh, we're done with Gus. Yay! We're done with Gus, we're done with Marnie. We still need Vincent, and Willie, and Harvey, and Sebastian, and a bunch of other people. But that's 3 people done. Yay! Oh, there's Harvey. Hi, Harvey. Hi, Harvey. Have mayonnaise. It was your birthday, Harvey, and I knew that. I knew that. Oh my god, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Oh god, help! 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 Oh god. Okay, we're free. We're free. Ahem. Yeah, apparently there's a game called The Long Dark, which I don't even know what genre it is. I'd never even heard of it until someone mentioned it. No, the idea, because I'm a total loser, was The Long Dark of Moria. So picture that the streaming is like a satellite. Just bear with me. And the satellite is watching the Fellowship, but then they enter Moria. So it's like, from the satellite's perspective, that's you guys, nothing happens. All of a sudden, everything just stops. But it's okay. They're still doing stuff. I'm still working my ass off. I'm just doing it off camera. And then once they leave Moria, the Long Dark is over and streaming resumes. Go ahead, make fun. It's okay. I deserve it. Oh. Hey, Laura. Sam and I were about to say Solarian Chronicles, the game. Why don't you join us? It's better with 3 players anyways. Yeah, sure. Okay, here we go. Let me draw the scenario card. Oh, I know, Flag Hand. Going from one of the best arts in the game to that. Ooh, whiplash. Looks like today's quest will take us to the Necromancer's Tower to try and reclaim the Solarian staff from the clutches of Dreadlord Zarth. Cool. Laura, you ready to choose your character? Yeah, so I can be the warrior, the healer, or the wizard. Oh. Hang on, I'm gonna look up if this matters at all. I don't know if it does, but I'm kind of curious. Where's my... There it is. Ugh. You know, it's a rare thing where a story arc would be improved by literally turning it into just a holodeck program, but I think that would qualify in that case. Okay, no effect. I mean, exactly, Flag Hand. Normally... I mean, that would still be a negative, let's be honest, because It's All a Dream is a bad trope for a reason. But it would still be less of a negative. Let's go with healer. Healer, huh? It's a very important role. Yeah, I usually tank, but whatever. I guess I'll pick wizard then. Cool, warrior's my favorite anyway. Let us begin with the Brigwin, Afyarun. The king has entrusted you and your companion with recovering the Solarian staff. A task which, if successfully completed, will ensure your place in the Hall of Legends, as well as a sizable fortune of gold and silver. After a long month journeying across the Unforgiven Lands, you step out on the precipice to see our destination looming in the distance. There, beyond the moonlit plain, lies the Necromancer's Tower, where Dreadlord Zarth usurps the power of the stolen Solarian staff for his vile purposes. The tower lies before you. Front door. Fortune favors the bold. A skeleton guards the hallway before you. It looks dangerous. Fight the skeleton. I raise my shield. Bzzz. You successfully block the attack. The skeleton stumbles backward, giving you enough time to strike out and slay the foul creature. You continue down the hallway, taking care not to step on the skeleton's remains. You find yourself in a sewer-like corridor. To your left, a hallway glows with a peculiar green light. To your right, a staircase leads up to the dark. What do you do? We're gonna go left. You're in a room. On your left is a ladder. On your right, 3 prisoners are floating in strange glowing capsules. They appear to be in the process of some kind of transformation. Could this be some sick experiment of the Dreadlords? What do? We destroy the capsules. After putting these poor souls to rest, you and your companions climb the ladder. This is still Stardew Valley. You have come to a door at the end of a hallway. The time has come to face Dreadlord Zarth.
Intruders! You dare trespass in my private chambers!
So you've come...
So you've come for the Solarian staff. Fools! You'll make a nice addition to my skeleton army.
Dreadlord Zarth casts Shadow Beam. You are able to dodge the spell, but your companions are gravely injured. I heal the wizard. Thanks, Lore. You're welcome. Nobody likes you, Sam. Sebastian casts Pure Bolt. A beam of white light hits Zarth square in the face. The Dreadlord shrieks and crumbles into dust. You pick up the Solarian staff and hold it high. Order has been restored to the world. You finished the narrative with an A rating. Alright, let's toss that in. I should probably go to bed. And my sister, who's definitely there and not AFK taking care of children, should probably also go to bed. Which she's definitely there. She can definitely hear me and is definitely running for the bed. Right about... now. There, she just passed out. Game. The other funny part is I could just divorce Penny right now, just like that. She'd be gone. I could Thanos her out of existence. And then just romance, I think anybody else. I think everybody's an option at the moment. And then I could romance Shane. and be his rebound, and then immediately divorce him. Could you imagine what would be going through his brain? Like, I never thought I'd ever find love again after what happened with your sister. And it's like, it's okay. I'm here for you, Shane. Shane, will you marry me? And Shane's like, yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, awesome. And then I divorce him. Next day. 1 day later. I'm so sorry, Dream Whisperer. If it makes you feel any better, I know exactly what you mean. You've heard of one more turn syndrome. What you may or may not know is that's a real design philosophy behind certain types of games. The idea is to make a game that doesn't have a peak or a trough in terms of gameplay. How do I explain that a little bit? So, if you're playing Mega Man, and you beat a level, there's a noticeable pause in the gameplay. You have defeated a level. There's a conclusory point to it. So your brain thinks, this is a good pause point, especially if you need to pause. Yes, she did. Evo. Absolutely. Same thing with a lot of games. You know, RPGs have story beats or levels or bosses or whatever. Fighters, beat 'em ups. Just most games have those kind of built-in pause points. But then there's games deliberately designed not to have pause points. I like to show this visually. So think about like doing a level and then you stop and then you go back to the stage select. Or you finish a boss and then it's like, okay, now you have the recovery period. But in a game like Civilization or most builder games, what you have is you just have a steady line. There's no peaks and there's no pauses. It's just a non-stop engagement of activity. Now that's by design, but that's one of the ways why the just one more turn philosophy exists. Is because you're just sitting there playing because there's no point at which your brain says, okay, I should, you know, that's a good cutoff point. I should go to bed. Instead, you're just, okay, I've got to do this next turn. Okay, I've got to do this next day. Okay, I just need to build this one more thing. Okay, once I've actually built this other thing, I need to build this other thing, and so forth and so on. So there's a lot of games like that. So yeah, builders and survivalers, like this very game you're playing right now, are very much designed around that, which can work. But it does tend to test the ability to self-manage a little bit. And yeah, Mobage tends to abuse this, psychologically speaking. And it's one of many reasons why I tend to hate Mobage and continue to spit venom at it, and will continue to do so. The romance and the Attack of the Clones should have worked. It didn't, but it should have. All the pieces were in place for that romance to actually work out. It's just they needed, what do you call that? I can't think of any words. Oh, right. Writing. They needed writing to make that actually work. How did you find me out? Ah, now that's actually a much more complex question than you think, Evo. After all, how do you heal someone? In fiction, obviously. Although this actually applies in real life, too. Kinda. You don't know? My goodness. Tissue regeneration. But how does the tissue regenerate? Although I'll accept that as an answer, because you're close enough to one of the 3 types of healing. So there's 3 types of healing in fiction. Although this kind of bleeds over into real life, too. So you can encourage the body to heal itself. You can... That's basically a form of inducement. You give the body the tools it needs to do what it itself can do on its own. So, you know, you remove unnecessary things like the glass shards or the dagger or the bullet, and then you prevent the blood loss from getting out of control. You get the whole area removed of contaminants, clean it up, and then help it to just kind of slowly heal itself. So that's answer number 1. Answer number 2 is rewind, and answer number 3 is enforced generation. So that's regeneration, rewinding, and generation. Those are the 3 methods of healing in fiction. So regeneration is obvious. I just mentioned that. Rewinding is also kind of self-explanatory. Rewinding is reverting a portion of your body to a previous state, which is then hypothetically more healthy than its current state. And that would be the kind of thing, healing, that's more useful for something like a major injury, like someone stabs you in the arm, for example. Although that could hypothetically work for certain aspects of diseases as well, assuming it was able to revert the damage those diseases had done. Forced generation is the most difficult to do by far, because it requires extremely careful and precise alterations to the existing tissue, and knowing exactly which alterations to do. So, to continue the knife stab example, so what you would do is you've got this giant gaping wound in the arm, right? So all of that bone would need to be I'm using the wrong terminology. The bone wouldn't have to be regrown, it would have to be grown. You would have to actually design and build new bone there and connect it with the existing bone. Same with the blood vessels, same with the muscular tissue, same with the tendons, etc. And you would have to basically build new stuff in order to fill that hole and properly connect and be compatible with the existing tissue. That's generation. Forced generation is most useful for things that are much harder to deal with via the other methods. Cancer is a perfect example of that, because you could simply remove the cancerous growth and the cancerous tissue entirely. Thank you, Cat Benatar. It's named after Wasteland 3, if you get the reference. And so you just remove all the cancerous tissue and all the things causing the cancerous tissue, and that leaves you with a giant gaping hole or wound in that. So then you forcibly generate new tissue there in order to completely replace the junk data tissue that was causing the issue, because reversion isn't going to fix that. Like reversion, that is to say rewinding, might get rid of the cancer temporarily, but it'll just come back for the same reason it did last time, right? Sounds right. White mages need to be capable and cognizant of all 3. Although, if you're paying attention, I just listed them in order of difficulty. Helping, that's true, and rewinding might help if it's an environmental problem. Like if you actually had a dose of radiation, rewinding could probably help you get through that pretty quickly and smoothly. But the easiest to do by far, especially since it's literally what we practice in real life, is enforced I don't know why I said enforced. Is regeneration, helping or encouraging the body to heal itself. It's harder to rewind it for obvious reasons, and it is much harder to force to generate it. Anyways, so that's how healing magic works, and also magitech, and also tech. Let's see here. Well, not really, Alex, because it's just changing the nature of the existing matter into a previous state. I get why you're saying that's temporal, but it's kind of not, because what you're doing is you're taking the existing tissue and a nearby tissue and saying, this is what it should be, and then adjusting the existing tissue to a state that most matches that, right? And as you might imagine, that's extremely hard to do. There's no reason white magic is extremely difficult to properly utilize within my setting. Honestly, with the issues that your people are having with the silicon thing, I would say forced generation would probably help them the most. Because most of those people have been born under those circumstances, so what you'd need to do is go in and just kind of redo parts of their body en masse. It would probably be very complex and very dangerous. Probably 5, other than Infinity War, which is the obvious one. That's true, Alex, but there's no time travel, so sucks to be them. Now they might have scans, which they could use as a template. So make sure you go for your regular checkup. So your body not being able to produce its own insulin, that would almost assuredly be generation. If you are born with a major detriment to yourself where you can't produce something like melatonin or insulin, or can't process proteins correctly, or a severe allergy or whatever, that's something that you're born with. You're born blind, for example. That's the kind of thing where they would then go ahead and generate new tissue and new organs or whatever's actually necessary in order to replace the existing defunct and default organs. Fine. We'll make her a cake. She likes cakes, right? Do you dislike... Let's double check. Is there anything she dislikes? Beer and wine and mead and pale ale. This is a woman after my own heart. Oh my god, she doesn't like black licorice. Or horror movies. Well, I guess I picked the right woman. It was meant to be. It was meant to be. Hi, Evoska. Yeah, we're just kind of chilling. We're just kind of chilling. So I'm about to show you a picture of my sister. But I swear there's a reason. I'm not just trying to show off my sister. Because while I was there Sunday, we were doing some cooking. And she decided that she needed to raise her reputation with me. So she one more, just the one. Oh, or we could get stuck on something. All right, run, run. Oh, I remember the question. I remember every question. Oh, shoot. I'm going to be cutting it pretty close. And he's like, where is he? It's fine, Penny, I'm fine, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'm gonna make it. Oh my god. Okay. So we got a bunch of interesting answers, Mr. Red. Nobody suggested a run and gun. Someone did actually suggest a Souls-like in Lord of the Rings. And honestly, it's kind of built for it. There's a lot you can do as a Souls-like in Lord of the Rings. But a run and gun. Let me think about that for a minute. So, would you want it to be serious or fun, Mr. Red? Because I can think of a way to do both. Oh, so you want it to be serious. So serious is much harder to do. Especially since run and guns, by definition, are not serious. They are ridiculous fun. That's kind of their shtick. But the way I would do a serious run and gun is I would remove ranged attacks from the perspective entirely. You wouldn't have any ranged weapons, except for maybe occasional power-up weapons, which would be like a thrown knife or whatever, which would probably be insta-kills. No, the main thing you'd have is a freaking sword. You'd be playing as Aragorn. Think about the path he takes. Think about the level design inherent in so many of the areas he visits as he is journeying his way, all the way up to and including fighting a literal final boss, right at the gates of Mordor. Aragorn fits that a little bit too much. But if you want a fun version, that's easy. The fun version would be you playing as Legolas. Now, I know several people said that in chat already, but it was my first thought. See, the thing is, I want you to imagine a run and gun. You've got all your different guns, right? You don't have any different guns as Legolas. You've always got your one bow. What you have is different arrows. So as you switch from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 7 to 8, you change which type of arrow you're shooting as. And the default arrow, of course, always has infinite ammo. But you're going to have trick shot arrows, and you're going to have explosive arrows, and you're going to have chain arrows, which like you shoot it at someone and it wraps around everybody nearby and groups them all up into one spot. And you're going to have sticky arrows, which adheres the enemy to the ground. And you're going to have knockback arrows, which do exactly what they sound like they're doing. You're going to have lava arrows, which just make a pit of lava temporarily pop up in a spot and just go nuts with it. Lean into the idea that Legolas is this ridiculous video game character and have fun with it. If they keep durability, which I want to stress, I think they shouldn't, then they need to fix the concurrent systems. I've actually talked about this before. How many of you have played Dying Light 1, specifically? Now, Dying Light 1 literally does the durability from Breath of the Wild just better across the board because of the adjacent systems and mechanisms. Let me try to explain. Let me try to remember how this goes. Every weapon in the game can be broken down into scrap metal. Scrap metal is a universal currency which is used to, wait for it, repair weapons. But hang on. Weapons can't be repaired forever. They can be repaired X amount of times. And there's some related stats that go into this, but the long and the short of it is, each weapon does have an absolute finite amount of uses. Now the thing is, each durability gets you quite a bit of use out of that. So you can stick with a weapon for a pretty decent chunk of time, especially if you're willing to spend the time into repairing it. There's also some upgrade systems that are associated with that, but the point is, what this creates is a wonderfully fluid inventory system. Because you get a weapon, and you try it out, and you like it, so you stick with it, or you get a weapon and you stick with it because it's the one you have, or you get a weapon and you don't like it at all, and you turn it into something to help you stick with another weapon. And it just keeps you churning through the weapons in a way that's actually fun and fluid as opposed to frustrating. Especially since if you accidentally throw your weapon, it doesn't instantly shatter in Dying Light 1. By the way, I highly recommend Dying Light 1, especially co-op. It's a great game. It's a great co-op game. Yeah, exactly. Keep the I'm fine with keeping durability, really. Because as I tried to explain earlier, the durability itself isn't really the issue. The fact that there is durability isn't the issue. The fact was they didn't design anything around that. There was very limited inventory space. The distribution of weapons was extraordinarily uneven. There was no repair mechanic in place. There was no extension mechanic in place to keep something invalid. And there was no use for weapons that you weren't immediately going to use. You might as well just throw them away. That's why it was so frustrating to me. I'm just like, I love this game, and then there's this rock in my shoe. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with it. What do you think? What do you think? I'm going to put this in the highlight reel because I just want to kind of show off, the area. We've been spending most of the day just cosmeticalizing this place. And I'm actually pretty pleased with it. Obviously, Space Cadet. I think Emily would actually enjoy D&D a lot. Hang on, let's look at the eligibles for a second. So, Penny might not be into it, honestly. She's got the narrative chops, but I'll tell you what Penny would do. Penny would help the GM come up with story ideas. She would help flesh out the campaign, right, from a narrative perspective. Now, Abigail would be super into it, obviously. She'd probably play a barbarian. Emily would be super into it. She'd play a bard. Meru, I don't think Meru would be as into it as others would, because she would look at it like any other game, and she would probably be more of a gamer than a role player on the axis. Shane would be super embarrassed about the fact that he's into it, but he's into it. Harvey's not into it at all. Elliot doesn't see the point of it. Leia just wants to hang out, so she's there just to be part of it, so she's not really with it. Haley is a fantastic example, because I've known people like Haley. Haley would be like, oh, I don't think that's really for me. And then she'd play it, and she would be super into it. Like one of those really exuberant, like, oh my god, no, I attack the goblet. Like, she would be really, really getting into the moment. Sam would be there mostly to hang out with his friends. Not really into the game at all. Alex wouldn't even show up. Sebastian would show up without really wanting to, and he would fuss about it, but he wants to be there, and he actually has a lot of fun with it. And that's all the datables. Who brings the snacks? What do you think my job is? You think I got all this massive wealth just to, you know, splurge on another yacht? I got D&D parties to throw. 3 sessions in, Sebastian and Haley get into a big argument about whether or not she's acting in character or not. No, it's fine, Zallard. It's fine. Everything's fine. And to sleep. At 9 in the morning. Yeah, the wizard would be like, excuse me. I don't believe that actually works that way. If I might consult the manual. And the GM is just like, no. You're not listening. Aha! Thank you, that rift person. Yes. Autumn's Bounty. I should probably have brought some cloth. Darn it. Shut up! Not making fun. Sorry, I'm in kind of a persnickety mood because I spent some of my lunch break debating writing, and my writing brain has turned back on this year as I've actually gotten a chance to stretch it and, you know, exercise that muscle a little bit. And it's made me even less tolerant of bad writing. Hollywood writing, more specifically. Bye, Baba Yaga. Yeah, so let me explain one thing that pisses me off about modern writing. And this is mostly a thing specifically in Hollywood, which is why I call it Hollywood writing. So how many of you have seen a film where it's a series of set pieces that don't really seem to make sense or string along with each other, and barely even have a connected theme whatsoever? It's just, here's something cool, here's something cool, here's something cool. How many of you have seen a film in the last 10 years like that? Now, I know this is a weird place to start, but I swear I'm doing this on purpose. I swear there's a logic here. Now, the movies I tend to go to, when it comes to thinking of that thing, is the modern Jurassic World films. More specifically, 2 and 3. If I had to narrow down to those. That's a cooking thing. Oh. You can really tell it's one of those sequences when, if you were to change barely anything, like surface level, it would change nothing. Like, nothing about the scene would need to alter in order to adjust for being in a completely different franchise, right? The reason why is those things are kind of deliberately designed to be template. And that's because of money. I know. You're sick to death of hearing me talk about money. Bear with me for a second. Yeah, plug and play. No, you're exactly right. That's exactly what it is. Because plug and play scene design is substantially easier and faster. That's the important part, that faster part. Because if you're making one cohesive film, this applies to films, games, books, movies, shows, or theaters for that matter, plays. But if you're making a cohesive work here, you have to really think about what fits where and how, why, and kind of make this whole thing follow in a necessary flow. There needs to be pacing, there needs to be sequencing, right? 2 big things I talk about all the time. Or, hear me out, what you could do instead of spending all that time and money and effort on that is you could instead design a series of sequences, just individual, not sequences, set pieces. So, big action moment, little bridge, big action moment, little bridge, big action moment. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that formula, but what it allows you to do as a filmmaker is to say, this studio over here with these people over here, I'm going to outsource this scene or this section of the film to you, and then I'm going to do it to you, and then to you, and then to you. Now, four completely separate teams are working on four completely separate parts of the movie. Now, normally that would be a nightmare. But if you design your script such that these don't have to connect in any real logical way, and there's just the flimsiest of pretense getting from one action piece to the next, then you can do that. And films can be cranked out a lot faster. And because time equals money, and because of how release schedules work, that means you could have more film releases, which means you are making more money. I hate that crap. I do. As with anything, it's how you use it that really matters. There's ways to make that formula work. But you can see why I'm so frustrated at that very concept, because it's just such an antithesis of
Blueberries in the greenhouse.
Of good blueberries. Like, if I don't have blueberries, maybe I may stop growing them. What's this?
Why are you growing blueberries in the greenhouse?
I'm just kind of growing whatever while I wait for the ancient seeds to blossom.
Oh.
Anyways. Sorry, rant off. It's just, like I said, it's something that came up literally during my lunch break, and that's why it's kind of fresh in my mind there. Even good modern films fall into this a little bit. Maverick, for example. But at the same time, Maverick kind of skipped over most of this by having really good connective tissue. The sequencing was there, and there was a whole lot of really good exposition, too. You'd see a scene, and rather than having a character turn to the screen, metaphorically, and say, "This is what I'm feeling in this moment, and I think this. Therefore, now that I've explained to you, the audience, what I, the character, am feeling and thinking, I am now going to take action based on that. I'm going to tell you what the action is I'm about to take, too, to really drive this point into the ground." They don't do that. Instead, a character will look in a way, and they will act, and they will show what they're feeling, and then will do based on that feeling.
Show, don't tell.
Yeah, exactly. One of the most
It's
basic
literally
fundamentals.
a thing that I am hammering into my fourth graders.
Really?
Show, don't tell.
That's...
Tell me what your characters are doing. Show me what they're doing. Don't just tell me how your characters are feeling. Show me what they do as a result of their feelings.
I love you, sis. I'm dead serious. It's almost sad that fourth graders are being taught that. And, you know...
Oh, you start teaching them as soon as you start writing. Like,
That's valid.
after they make it past the sentence stage into the paragraph stage, you start being like, all right, you gotta, like, show, don't tell. Show me, don't tell me. Show me.
No, that's valid. That's valid. I like that.
Pull out the important details.
Thanks for the fridge, Gus. So did we just get 2 fridges? Oh, I think a lot. Hey! See, right now I'm waiting again, but it's not the game's fault, technically. This is the going out for lunch problem, which I'm sure some of you have encountered in your lives. So, I want you to picture a scenario for me, okay? I want you to picture that you're at work, and you've got 5 friends at that workplace, and you're getting together to go to lunch. Now, you, plus 3 of your friends, are all together, ready to go. Cool, no real issues. However, your 5th friend, that is to say, the 5th person, so your 4th friend, is not actually there. They're off dealing with something. And that's not a big deal. You just wait until they're good, and then you'll be ready as a group. Thing is, while they're waiting, something else can come up. Maybe one of the other friends has to go deal with something. Maybe they decide, well, while I'm waiting anyways, I'm going to go do this other thing, since they don't want to just sit there and wait. Maybe they get called away on a work thing. So... now, you wait for the first person to come back. They come back. But now you're missing the other person. Oh, okay. Well, we'll just wait for them. At which point, your third person, who's been waiting double the overall length at this point, is like, you know, I really could be doing some other things. I'm going to go get this other thing. Just let me know when everyone's ready. So they leave. And now you're waiting on another person. But then the second person comes back. By this point, the first person may or may not have actually wandered off anyways. You get called away to go deal with a work thing, and when you come back, only one of the person's even there waiting for you. If it's not obvious, I have experienced the lunch problem hundreds of times in my life. From something as banal as just hanging out with some friends, or trying to get together for a raid and WoW, or trying to set up a meet, or gathering together for the family at a family gathering, or planning an event, or going to a theme park, or just getting lunch. Or progressing with this freaking game! And my tolerance for it, the older I get, has gone down, not up. So that's why I'm sitting here trying really hard not to let out just how angry I actually am at all these constant interruptions. Alright. Like 3 days late, we're finally going to see some new content. Let's do this. We've got 40 minutes left on the stream. Say goodbye forever to our loving wife. Say goodbye forever to our loving son. No, Warp Core. No, I didn't. Let's check the mail. That's nice. What? Okay. Let's sell that amethyst because Abigail doesn't need it. She's too spoiled with amethysts as is. Yep, I'm going out to get a pack of smokes. Some milk. He was never heard from again. We're going to say goodbye to our beloved cat, Major Tom. We're going to say goodbye to our beloved money-making factory, which we're using to single-handedly prop up the entire city. Farewell, money-making factory. Whoops. Let's do it. Watch. There's going to be some other bullcrap thing preventing us. What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? All right. Okay, I like that it's the world map. Or just the map. Right about now, a Star Destroyer shows up and tries to capture me. Is there an active volcano in this place? Get back here. Get back here. Aw. Well, welcome to New Content Island. The boy looks at you with curious eyes. Gao? But it's okay, because we're not dead. We're just on the verge of death. Please don't kill me. Oh god, please don't kill me. I thought you were leading me here, and we're dead. I feel like this music. Willie's like, what are you doing up this late? Look, shut up. I found some parrots. You found what? Why were parrots... Look, shut up. There's no way. There's no way. Hey, Grab Guard. Place your bets. Am I going to make it home in time? I don't think I am. There's no way in hell. Hey, Dr. Winter. Give me a second. I'll answer your question from earlier. Nope. Nope. That's officially a no. If I made it at 140, I might have made that, but... Yep. Kick where it hurts. But Clint doesn't have any balls! Just the rest of the stream, catching this one fish right here. But, like, what are you doing?
I erased Shane's memory.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's pretty evil.
Now I can build friendship with him again.
That... You monster.
What?
You monster!
Now he doesn't have to be haunted by the memories of, you know, being with a super rich, awesome wife who then divorced him for being a drunk. I figure this is good for everybody. The way, you and Penny are horrible parents.
What do we do?
Your son, you just leave him alone in the house all day, every day.
He's fine. I'm going off to a tropical island to go hang out in a volcano. What's the issue here? He's old enough to take care of himself.
He just started walking, like, last week.
Exactly.
You left him alone before he could walk.
I mean, okay, fair. I think Sis is the lore jogger.
I don't jog.
Apparently Sis is no longer the lore jogger. She's already advocated the title. No, microtransactions can be paying for each blueberry individually. They can also be much, much worse than that. They can be paying for a seed packet, which contains a random number of seeds, which you don't actually know what the seeds are until you plant them and water them and grow them. By the way, they also charge you for the soil, the space to grow them, and the water. If you then pay for the water, the soil, the space, and the seed, you will eventually grow something, and that may be the blueberry you actually want. It also may not. That's microtransactions. Oh yeah, if you buy a large amount of seeds, the game cheats and gives you a larger chance to get the seeds you actually want. Like, changes the variables of the likelihood of getting certain types of seeds. And also, there's regular blueberries, but then there's blueberries that actually have flavor, and then there's blueberries that are actually good flavor. Those are, of course, 2-star and 3-star blueberries, respectively. Now, if you want to get a 3-star blueberry, what you're going to have to do is get a bunch of regular blueberries and turn those in. And that'll give you a package which you can then go ahead and go buy some more seeds, and another spot, and more water, and more soil, for another chance at growing those into a 2-star blueberry. You have to do that per blueberry. And also you need like 50 regulars for a 2-star blueberry and 52 stars for a 3-star blueberry. You'll notice I'm not saying this with any amount of humor in my tone, because this isn't a joke. This is just how this is. This is just the nature of how this has become. Yeah, no hyperbole. I have unfortunately done research on the specifics of how certain predatory practices work as part of my job. It's disgusting. When they say that they have hired psychologists in order to study human psychology, in order to be as manipulative as possible, I believe them. So, Darkrai mentions microtransactions that use FOMO too, right? Let's go back to the blueberry thing. Blueberries are only available during this event, after which they're going away. You cannot get blueberries after we're done with this event. We'll move on to the next fruit, where you have to start all over from scratch. Also, we're probably going to have a sale, probably in the last week. We'll very carefully calculate it, so that you mathematically do not have the possibility of getting a 3-star blueberry in the time that you have left when the sale goes live. Two spines in a row. I guess I see where Clint's been hanging out. I feel that there's some cool ideas on this island, and it gives me hope for what we're eventually going to get from Haunted Chocolatier. Because I legitimately feel like it's better designed than several other aspects of the game. So let's jot out a couple of additional positives for this. And give you a moment to actually audit this sucker and give us our scores. Plus 21 to story. That is a density of 0.41 story positives per hour, which is honestly more than I thought there would be. And a ratio of 95.65%, which is really good. There's not a lot of story here, but what story there is good, and there's very little story that's bad. This leads us immediately into the gameplay. Net gameplay score of 31, plus 31 to gameplay. That is 0.61 gameplay per hour. Much better ratio, or sorry, much better density. However, the ratio is 75.41%. We had a lot more complaints on the gameplay axis. This leaves us with a golden number of... Drumroll, please. Now, see, if I don't get a drumroll... Okay, there we go. 139.71. Which, yeah, that sounds about right, honestly. That is a very good game. And this is a very good game. Final thoughts. What I find most interesting about this game is that you can play it completely chill, which I have already done. I played that way on the Switch. Or you can play it completely managey, which is what we did this time for the most part. And I found it equally enjoyable in both methods, which is good. The late game falls apart really hard, which makes sense based on what we talked about. And the early game is a little bit problematic by virtue of how boring it can be. But the mid game is where the game really shines. When you've got your economics going, you've got your resource chain going, you've got a steady income going, and you're starting to try and do everything at the same time. And you're either just chilling, because you're chilling, or you're trying to be as efficient as possible and progressing through the various mechanisms that are throughout the game. And that's the best part of the game for me right there. And I had a lot of fun at that point in time. It was very stressful, but in a good way. I was actually engaged, and I found myself absolutely digging into it. So, if by some miracle you're someone who is on the fence about buying this game, I absolutely recommend it. However, it's very easy to understand why this wouldn't be for everyone, because this is at its core a management sim. That's why we're putting that in that particular genre when it comes to classification. This is all about managing your time, your resources. Sorry, it's all about managing your resources, which is your time, your gold, your budget, whether or not you've got access to which tools or which abilities or how far you've gotten into them. There's all kinds of things that you're constantly trying to juggle in order to optimize, and I love that. I'm probably never going to actually go for perfection because of the fishing thing, but it is interesting that there is a definitive end of the game at this point, and it makes sense. It feels like the kind of thing he probably wanted in the game at launch, but as we already talked about, couldn't actually do. I do hope everyone has enjoyed this elongated run. Obviously, the next thing we're doing is the Long Dark. So, for those of you on the highlight reel, I say